I have 8:30. I welcome everybody here this morning and online. I will call this meeting to the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to order for June 23rd. And will entertain a motion to approve the minutes
For
of
June 16th, so moved.
Second.
discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 With the board's indulgence, I'm going to move up down at the bottom where it says discuss and consider Jackson Point Progressive Housing Corp. Tax abatement request to the top of the page. Our county attorney has court this morning, so. As a representative of, on the Jackson Point Progressive Housing Corp. Board, I am approaching the Board of Supervisors. Now, we can't actually, there's not a resolution today. We'd have to develop a resolution, but I'm asking the boards, requesting of the board to consider tax abatement for Jackson Point. It's about around figures $3,800 a year. And for the public, Jackson Point is a housing, an apartment at an 18-unit apartment complex for we have mental health clients there and others, and Jackson Point Progressive Housing Corp. Oversees that facility. And so I'm going to open it up or ask the board what your thought processes are regarding abating those taxes.
Have we done this in the past?
Abate taxes or
On-
abate these
on
taxes?
These taxes on Jackson Point.
Not that I, as a member of the corporation, are aware of. I know that the request has been made, but not to the board. Let me rephrase that. What I mean by that is the discussion has been had, but there's never been a request made to the Board of Supervisors that I am aware of.
Could you explain to me why we would do this? I guess I'm wondering why, if anybody can come in and get their tax abated, and I know that's true, they can, but what's the purpose of this specific one?
I'll just give you a brief financial overview because we don't have a lot of time to go into that,
Sure.
but essentially, the units collectively generate about $110,000 a year. According to contract, which we don't actually have a signed contract, but according to the contract, we pay the management company 16% of the revenue. And all of the rest of the funds go to for maintenance, upkeep, utilities, and so on and so forth. We are required by the Iowa Finance Authority to maintain the building and the grounds in a certain, when I say a certain fashion, I mean, it has to be livable, and it has to be right. Currently, right now, we're looking at quite a bit of concrete work that needs to be done. We've had a couple bids on it. The bids range from $9,500 to $5,600 for these sidewalks. And our management company, Keyway Management, is handling that. We have, through the agent reports that he has sent, we have an ongoing expense every month of $2,107 and another one to Cedar View Seed and Sod for $682 a month. So there's round figures $36,000 a year there. And 16% of $110,000 is roughly 15,000. My math is right. So It's a matter of $17,600. So 43 fifths, almost half of your revenue just in those. And then if you add the property tax, you're over that. And so it's just it's a way to ease some of the financial burden of meeting the requirements of the state of Iowa. The Iowa Finance Authority put up roughly $750,000 towards the construction of that building, which they, by the way, are not requiring a loan payment on that. The interest is about $3,000 a year that is paid on that. So the long and the short of it is it just alleviates a portion of the burden.
And additionally, we have an obligation. The Jackson Point facility was built pursuant to a low-income LIHTC loan. The PNC Bank out of Washington was a partner, a minor partner in that. They got out last year in 2024. However, we do owe, for the final year of their involvement in this project, we owe them tax data for the facility for the 2024 year. So that's why I think the Progressive Housing Corporation is asking for that abatement so that we can essentially end the involvement and finalize our agreement with PNC to have them withdraw from this project.
So to be clear, this is not the county's committee. It is a committee for Jackson Housing, correct? You
So-
being a supervisor are on this committee.
I am, but I'm asking on behalf of the Progressive Housing
Okay, I just want to be
Corporation, but
clear.
only you can grant the abatement. It would have to be done by resolution. So if you decided that that was direction that you were willing to go, it would have to go back on the agenda with the resolution.
Yeah.
to Complete that process. But as Chauncey said, we are again asking in part to complete, and this PNC Bank, by the way, saved the Progressive Housing Corp quite a bit of money because they funded the separation. And the reason that they separated was because they put up roughly about 1.3 million in the beginning of the project to build the facility and everything. In return, they got tax credits. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and try to explain how that all works because I don't know for sure how it all works. But anyway, they got all of their tax credits, so they asked to be removed from the partnership. They funded the cost of that removal. And in my case, say this is
A final report to them is due, which is on the taxes. And just to avoid any impropriety, I think that Lee, you would recuse yourself from
Yes.
any vote on this
Yes.
because of your involvement with the board.
right.
Absolutely.
So I'm asking on behalf of Progressive
I
Housing Corp.
understand.
I'll make the motion to abate their taxes then.
I'll second that motion.
I'm wondering. How we
Require a resolution, but if we wanted to be cleaner, we could put one together and vote on it next.
I think, as chairman of this board, I think that would be, then there's a record. there's a
Wait till
big
July
record.
7th. Is that what you're saying? Wait till July 7th
Yeah,
because we don't have a meeting.
or is that too late?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I'll inform PNC that it was approved, but the resolution's pending.
So if you would amend your motion to approve the abatement pending drafting a resolution passing.
Is this something that we normally do when we abate? We have to go on and do a resolution or just something to clean, make it clean this time?
It's something to make it clean. The statute that provides for abatement doesn't require a resolution. However, a resolution would give us something on paper to send to PNC that's a little more clean than the minutes.
A lot of times we'll have an application for abatement from a party. Also, I believe that Progressive Housing Corp will have to come before me each year to ask for the abatement. So each year, in other words, this is just for the current taxes.
Yeah, and to be clear, this is for tax year 2024, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll amend my motion to reflect that.
You're the
I will
vice chair.
still second it.
Yeah, you're the vice chair. I'm gonna let you call for the vote.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I abstain.
Motion passed.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Good. Yep. Back up to the top of the. Hi, Dave.
Good morning.
How's it going? Yeah, I reckon we will. Yeah, I mean, it's all, it's all the ingredients of soup, right?
Got all the players too.
Yeah, so.
Wait, this is Jason, he's with the tunnel.
Nice to meet you.
And what is this?
It's my son Tyler.
Hi, Tyler. And so, we have here, to meet with Jason to discuss and consider the Southboard bid. And, we're looking at two options that's in your packet. One is $33,750. And this is the other option is $36,100. Would you like to enlighten everybody?
Yeah, so basically, option one is obviously for the new doors, the arch, everything that's involved in there. Originally, when I spoke to Dave, there was some consideration of wanting to have access control system in the building, which would be a key fob or a card access or something along those lines. And so really the essential difference between the two is one is going to be something similar to what you have now, where it just has emergency exit devices on the doors and you can dog them down as they are now, things along those lines. The option two is going to be for a keyed removable mullion behind the doors. And then there'll be an electric strike on that door. And then that can be integrated with a to be determined type of access control that will allow people to have card access to get in and out of the building. And basically, option A is very difficult to convert later. In other words, to try to make that do what option B would do would be kind of a mess. So if there's any consideration at all that they're going to go to some kind of a card reading type access control, then that would be what I would say option B is. And again, that mullion has a key removable option to it. So if you need to bring something through, which I don't know how often that is, but in the event that there is, that can be removed and things can come and go as need be. And then you put it back in, plug the electronics back in, and you're back going again. So really pretty basic differences. I'm just, obviously there's cost differences in between the two. The functionality of the doors as far as function form, what they're going to do, the styles, the componentries, I mean, those are all the same between the two with the exception of some hardware. And in that package for either or, there is either package includes a new automatic operator, which is the handicap control operator that will get you in and out of the one door too. And if you go to an access control option, which is the removable mullion and the electric strike, which integrates with some kind of a system, which I believe there is one on the north door, right? Is that got access control or is it
Yeah.
just handicapped operator?
South door, east side.
But the north door didn't.
It didn't initially, but then we put one in.
Yeah, I think when because we did the north door through CCI, I think we put that option in it.
Yes.
So that one can be added. Anyway.
Don't the pins work where if you've got, where you're not doing the access control, the locking pins will actually
Well,
go into the header and then also
Yeah.
go into the bottom.
so if option A, those panic bars are what they call a vertical rod retraction.
Right.
So they pin into the floor, into the ceiling.
Yeah.
And now that I remember, the door on the north is just a single door, so it doesn't have that option anyway, but it's still set up for the access control.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and that's what makes it hard to convert it, because it's a mechanical retraction in the panic bars for option one that draw those up and down. And to actually do that later, you'd have to switch the panic bars to some sort of electrified thing that ties into access control and retracts those. So there's quite a bit of expense, and mechanically it just becomes a problem semi sort of what you have down there, where you just have wear items that just originally go bad over time, where option B that we have there again is a panic bar that has a strike that works off of that latch. So you also eliminate mechanical things that can wear out and give you fits over time, again, similar to what you have going on down there on those doors. Not to say that there can't be something happen in a great deal amount of time, but if you go that option, when it comes time to repair or replace something, it's less going on, a little bit easier on the maintenance side of things too, if you want to go that way. So I guess I'm not advocating one way or the other for which way you go, but I can tell you the differences in them and what the problems would be down the road if you wanted to change or something along those lines. So
On that south entry, we're already down the road on that one. And so if we went with option A, or option one, we'd end up with basically the same system that we've got right now, which down the road has failed. And so it's less likely to fail with a second option. Not only that, but we've also been working toward, that was one thing that Darren was kind of working on when he was here, was access control. So we've already done the electronics upstairs, which is located in the clerk of courts, or the judge's chambers office, and then we've done the access control on the north door. The only missing component would be doing the access control on the south door and then completing the wiring.
So when you say we do option two, are you the ones then that come in and with a key card and all that stuff in it?
we don't. That is one thing that we are not, most people in my trade aren't specialized in access control. We provide electric strike, which that electric strike can function without power or with power. By out power, it just functions as a simple latch mechanism that keeps the door locked. You're still gonna have to dog the doors down every day for access control anyway. I mean, there's no getting away from that. But then we provide the electric strike, it's there, it's on the mullions. So if at a later date you come in and want to put the actual security access system in, then it makes my system a turnkey system. It just a simple plug into our system and then you're off and running. So that is the only thing we don't do is that type of, we're just not specialized in that world.
The only other thing that isn't included in that is that both the north and south doors have to be key to lock. So we'd have to change out the cylinder in the
Yeah,
north
that's
door, and then also provide some keys.
sure. Do you have a local locksmith that has your? I'm gonna go no on that.
Yeah.
So basically, then what we'd have to do is work with you to get the master key, whatever that is, and set that up. So again, you can get in and out.
Well, I think what we do is we just simply master after the keys that are coming up,
Right.
that are coming in with the south door,
Mhm.
and then we just change out and go on the north door so it matches.
Right, because the north door is probably still kind of the original.
Yeah, and one of the problems we've got right now is we've made copies from copies from copies,
Sure.
so 90% of the keys around here are problematic as far as getting into the building.
Yeah. And the other thing I'll add, which really is kind of insignificant, but the with or without, when you put the new operator on there, it's got a built-in relay mechanism on it, so when that's dogged down, it won't put the door company or the operator company will still say that they like to see someone manually turn that operator off. But it's still, at the end of the day, if someone doesn't physically reach up there and turn that off at night, it's got a built-in relay in it. So if somebody starts pushing the button, it's not gonna break the operator and
Yeah.
try to open the operator. So, I mean, again, as of late, for some reason, they've been making that recommendation that someone turns it off at night, but I know that's a lot to ask for somebody to come in and physically shut that off every single night.
I think it's just a matter of figuring out how to do it, you know, because it's a three-position switch, so obviously one of the positions
Yep.
is gonna turn it off, so. If you decide that that's something we need to do.
And then the access control company, when they do that, obviously the operator will be set up to interface with it. So when the access control company comes in and puts their system in, it's going to release that. It's going to allow the door to open and do all those kind of things, all in sort of a concert of working.
So I got a couple other real quick questions.
You bet.
Excuse me. One, that is our handicap access.
Mhm.
And so, how long do you anticipate this project taking?
That's a great question. I don't absolutely know the answer to that. We would have to logistically work with everybody here to make that happen because the door itself and the arch are two different entities. So the process is going to be, we're going to have to take everything out, the door, the arch. We're going to have to put some sort of a header in, and I'm envisioning either a post or something, because there's a lot of things we can't see right now. There's a lot of things going on in that doorway that we don't know. We don't know how it was built. We don't know what's involved, but we definitely want to make sure that there's something there besides the door itself that supports the weight of that archway. So what I envision is, or the way I envision it is we are going to take that out. We're going to put the new door in, make sure that header system is there. And depending on how this all falls in line of whether we start the project and, you know, because the archway, it has to go to a roll former. They have to roll that aluminum. They have to do all that kind of stuff. So it's a bit specialized in how they do that. We don't physically manufacture that arch. So I think I outlined it in there that depending on the time frame, depending on how we want to get this all going, because there is lead times on all this stuff, we can put the door in, get the header in, and then cover all that up, get everything back working again. And then that way, if the archway comes a bit later, we could put that in after the fact. So try to minimize your downtime on the doorway. What I see is from taking the door out, putting it back in, I could see disruption on that part 2 to 3 days. From taking it out to putting it back in, which would, you know, will we work with people coming in and out of the courthouse? Absolutely. If there's someone that needs to get through there, we absolutely will help them get through in any way possible. We're not looking for total shutdown, but you know, if we can minimize it. I don't know what's the busiest access. I know when we were doing the north side, there was a lot of people coming in and out of there, and there was a lot of people unhappy with us that we were sort of blocking that doorway. So, you know, I don't know. I think Dave, you said that really is the one that probably gets the most traffic.
It is, but again, this is, you know,
Handicap, absolutely.
if you're wheelchair bound, you're not.
No, sure.
And so the other thing is that it took 2 to 3 days. How do we secure that in the meantime?
Oh, we will make sure that it's secure. So obviously day one, we're going to take the doorway out and we're going to get a doorway back in. You know, we're not going to leave the building open. I mean, we're used to having to work under that that deal. There's gonna be a lot of things in that 2 to 3 days that have to happen, but goal number one is going to be getting that doorway out, getting a new doorway back in. So it's lockable, functional. If for some reason that couldn't happen, we would obviously board it up in a very secure manner. But there's just some unknown in that doorway because we just don't know what's makes that thing work. We've done some looking around. We've tried to really investigate it as much as we can without physically tearing things apart. I mean, there's just a lot of things that they've put into there to cover things up that just can't really look behind the curtain so much.
Which leads me to my next question. It's been my experience in the past, and not just here, but in many projects that I've been involved in, we get an estimate for something, and I realize it's an estimate. And it ends up coming in at $10,000 or $15,000 more, or $5,000 more. And it sounds to me like this is one of those things where we just don't know what we're gonna find, and so we really don't know if it's gonna be $36,100.
That is not my intention. I feel like we're pretty good at where we've put this. I had to put something in there that simply covers myself that says, you know, I haven't forgotten or haven't excluded any major key components that I feel are going to be involved in putting this together. I use that clause as, okay, if we get that thing out of there and we find something strangely odd that it's going to take some extra work with, I want to make sure that we're not expected to have to eat that cost or something along those lines, because there is some unknown. What I think is going on there, I think we're going to be okay. I don't see like huge expenses of, oh gosh, this isn't going to work, or oh gosh, this is, you know, we're going to have to change this, that, or the other thing. It's simply just covering myself that say, hey, if we get into something, we have to get an outside contractor in, you know, that maybe specializes in masonry or specializes in some sort of something along those lines. We have that option of doing it. Again, I just don't physically know. I don't anticipate anything strangely out of line, but you just really don't know when you tear something apart like that.
Well, there's really two areas where you may have a problem. The first one is that support across the top of the doors to carry the weight of the arch.
Mhm.
Because obviously there's something in there right now, but we don't know what. So when you get in there, that's when you're going to discover what. It may be something that could be reused. Who knows?
Mhm.
The other one is going to be any place where it interfaces with the building.
Yeah. And a lot of times in buildings, we've taken those areas out, and in certain situations where it's brick or something, there could be an airspace, a gap right where that door is that really causes problems with how you're going to fasten things. The way that stone is, I don't see there being any voids in there. I got a good feeling that stone runs all the way through it. I'm really
I think you're
pretty confident that it is. And even the support of the archway, we've for the most part, and I don't even know if that's the best word, but we've allowed ourselves for doing that. You know, it's not like we're gonna say, oh, wait, we see this, what we want to do, we're gonna have to do something different. That's gonna be $4,000. I mean, that's not where we're going with this. That's not what I'm looking for, something happening in that option. I just simply want to make sure in something like this that I have covered myself for the unknown.
right, and that's what you absolutely have to do. When we did the one on the north side of the building, we discovered that, guess what, there's a large cavity under there. That was something that nobody anticipated, and obviously, after the fact, it has to be dealt with.
Well, and you know, in a situation like that over there, I was working under the banner of CCI.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, that was something that was all sort of covered and worked through them, you know, and I'm kind of going at this under my own here. So again, you know, I just want to make sure that if something does bizarre show up, that we have the ability to address it and
Well,
take care of it.
one of the things that I was hoping that we could avoid on this was, first of all, we don't get a general contractor involved because we don't have to pay them. Second of all, we don't get an architect involved. And the third thing was try and put out the best product that we possibly could without those people being involved and without having that additional cost. So we came up with a design that we think is good. And we've come up with a plan that we think is good. And obviously, there's gonna be some people that are gonna have to be notified that this activity is going on, and, you know, if we let the public know what's going on, there's no reason why we can't build a schedule to get the work done.
Board,
If we proceed with this and you run into something major, I would appreciate if you get a hold of us
Oh,
right
absolutely.
away and get things worked out. Don't just.
Yeah, no, I'm not one to just, you know, obviously, if we run into something like that, the first thing I'm gonna do is go grab Dave and say, hey, come look at this. Again, I don't see, you know, structurally, the building speaks for itself. I mean, the door is not structural, the arch is not structural, it has no bearing on that building. I mean, it literally is just what it is. So, I mean, I don't anticipate anything like that being a major issue. In the past, like I said, we've run into places where there's stuff hidden in behind there. And, you know, the integrity of how we fasten our product too can be there. But because it's all stone there, I just don't see that being an issue. But you just never know. There, you know, the sidewalk, the area underneath of it, I have to go back and look at it, the steps, things like that. I don't know what kind of conditions they are. I don't know if they.
I've been under there. There's a way to get underneath those stairs and underneath that area, and there is a void down there. And the void extends from where you would stand to go into the elevator out past the doors. But there was also a steel pan put in there, concrete poured on top of that, and then the tile and concrete on top of that.
Okay.
And also, when we replaced the sidewalk out there, we also discovered that we weren't gonna have a problem with that, because that sidewalk was replaced all the way up to the face of to the south face of those doors.
Okay.
So I don't believe there's gonna be a problem, but if we do have something, there isn't any reason why we can't submit a change order. And change order, it would be subject to board approval.
Absolutely.
So,
We would have to be on spur of the moment to get things done.
yeah.
If we want to keep moving along.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, but Lee asked some of the questions I was interested in too, so.
so what is the
But-
board's desire?
I sat here looking at this, and if we went with the cheaper one, then we decided to change over later, we'd spend way more than $2,300 difference. So I move that we go with option 2.
Susie?
I move we add to that using the American Recovery Funds, which is what we did for the basement.
Right.
The other door, to be continuing that project.
So
And if that's what the motion Joe's made, I will second it.
I accept that.
you have that down here.
Mhm.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the option 2, $36,100 using ARPA funds
Correct.
to cover the cost.
If I may ask, if you get into using something special like that, does that require anything out of us as far as, I know some of these projects, and the word escapes me right now, but
What's American by America? That?
no, not so much that, but, I know on some of these projects, they have, gosh, I don't know what, how we pay, you know, I mean.
No,
okay,
You're good.
Okay,
You're good.
okay,
It's just, he has to stand on his head in the corner.
okay.
Once or the other.
I can make that happen.
All right.
Yeah, I suppose you'd have to have it done by December 31st of this year
Okay, yeah.
to be compliant with those funds.
Yeah.
How soon could you get to it?
Well, we have already done a fair amount of work. We've made patterns for the arch. Because when we send that off, unfortunately, we have to do it out of something that can roll up and send off. And so we've already gone to we've made sort of a wood pattern, and then we've transferred that over to a heavy paper pattern like they put down on floors to protect floors. And we're very close to having that fit the way we want. And so once this is all approved, then we can order the doors. We can get the material ordered for the archway. We can come over here and finalize, make sure that we're totally happy with the way the archway fits, then send that all off and get it done. Lead times vary right now, but 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks on the materials is not out of line anymore. And then so this is moving further and further into, probably late summer project. I'm just guessing now. I mean, realistically, and we can sort of tailor that a little bit to, I don't know if there's any activity that comes and goes. Obviously, I don't know of any major election issues coming up right now that would run into.
Not till November,
Okay.
So
so
We
mid-October.
We have to coordinate this with the court schedule upstairs.
sure.
But that's not a problem because they put out schedule all the time.
I mean, the more we can shield us from traffic initially, for a day or two, the better off we are. But again, we're, if someone needs in, we're going to help them. If they need to get in that entryway, because that's their only way in the building, we're going to do everything we can to get out of the road and help them get in that entry. So, I mean, if there's some major construction going on at that point in time, but I mean, still, they don't know. They're just coming to do their business. So they don't necessarily know when, where, why, or how. So again, if that needs to happen, we're going to do whatever we can to make it happen with them.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
will, yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you. We'll, the next step for us is to try to get a little bit more finalizing on that archway,
Okay,
but
What's this?
that was yours, Jeff.
all right.
So
Anything I can do to help, let me know.
any
Thank you.
questions, let us know. Thank
all
you.
right, yep,
Thank you, guys.
mini splits.
Okay, mini splits are kind of a mess because, we've been trying to use the Boston. And, so our contractor, with all his effort, it wasn't able to get all the components of the older system that is being phased out. Still a good system, but it's being phased out. So went and found a different contractor. I went to Fiedler. Fiedler said that they can do the install and that they can use the new Bosch equipment. And so on Friday, Fiedler called me back and said, well, yeah, we can do it with the new equipment, but the problem is that Bosch refuses to give us a schedule as to when the equipment will be available. It could be tomorrow, it could be 6 months from now. So that option kind of came off the page, and right after I got off the phone with Fiedler, but Fiedler did say that they could put in a carrier system, or no, it wasn't carrier, it was an LG system. An LG system would be available. And I said, well, give me a price. And he's going to do that. And shortly after I got off the phone with him, Rod gave me a call back and said that Hickenbottom believes that our missing parts are going to be shipped and arrive at their store on either Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, and that would give us all the parts and pieces to do Bosch install almost right away. So, but as soon as I get some prices from Rod on that, then I'll let you know what it is, and we'll go from there. So that's kind of where we're at with that right now. Couple other little things. DHS, I got a call a week and a half ago from, River over there. She said that there's 3 of the air conditioners that are not working. So I had Rod go out there. Rod got 2 of them up and running, but on the 3rd one, we have to replace the condenser. Cost will probably be in the neighborhood of $2,300. So, I told him I'd run it by you guys and, but, you know, if it needs replacing, it needs replacing. I said, to me, it's just that simple. But I'm not gonna spend $2,300 for your money. I'll tell you I'm gonna do it.
$2,300. If we did, does that meet the EHS needs?
Well, there you go.
What other option do we have?
None. Just tell them that they're gonna have to put up with it. But unfortunately, the way that building is laid out, DHS is in like a big T, right? It's got a long hallway that goes down to service all of the rooms where patients would have gone at one time, but now it's all offices. So there's a system down that hallway, and then on the other end, which would be the east end, is the top of the T. So we got 3 systems in there. So we've got one zone right now that's not receiving any air.
He put box fan in the hallway.
More than
I'm sorry.
Do they have all those offices filled? There should be 19 offices in there,
There's furniture in them, but I've never
but
seen.
it hasn't been dusted.
But I've never seen enough vehicles in the parking lot to support those offices, so, I mean, we'd have to go over and ask them.
Okay, so, I guess we own the building, we authorize the expense.
Guess we'll have to do it.
Give him a holler. Anything else?
The only other thing was, when I was talking with Dealer, I asked him if he'd done any service on the, system, the new system and then the older system that was in the ambulance place over there. There he is. And I asked him if it was set up for routine maintenance, and he said, no, it's not at this time. The recommendation is that they do it twice a year, so they come in and look at the equipment. And, make sure we don't have any problems, and make sure everything's running efficiently. And personally, I think it's a good idea. We do it here in this building. I have it done at DHS every year, and I have to have it done over at the county attorney's office. I'm behind on that one right now. So, but I'd like to tell them to go ahead and do it.
And I'll just have to reach out to Josh, make sure it was even.
Yeah, well, he would have to be, because they can't get in the building without his knowledge.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Take note, well, you won't have one in front of you. You're gonna be around later this morning.
Yeah, what we're trying.
Yeah. Who knows? We'll have Abby send up a flare.
Swears usually doesn't find me.
Okay,
I'll come back up here in about.
thank you. Okay,
Thanks, Dave.
Dwayne, you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. It's us. Okay. We got about 20 seconds.
20 seconds, we're hauling contract rock. Still up in Pleasant Plain area. We're starting ditching on Tamarack. South of 250th down to 268th is where we did some work last year, and the erosion control seeding didn't take. So we've got a bunch of plugged culverts. A little later on this morning, we've got the T-SIP for 1/10. Jess was monitoring the chip seals over the weekend. He didn't feel that we had any need to do any additional chipping or sanding to avoid more car issues. Splattered oil. And I guess everything else is later on in the meeting.
I did drive Lockreach. Was it Saturday?
So I don't know.
Friday or Saturday, yeah, whenever it was raining. And it was kind of hard to tell some things, but it did look to me like the edges were breaking up, but I
Yeah.
talked to Joe about that, so it must have
And
been
there's,
Friday.
there's some issues in town where people are, slowing down. You're getting some of that washboarding and then also where they're accelerating uphill. So Jess is actually gonna try and work on that either today or tomorrow. Let's see if we can't remedy that and get it healed up.
I drove all the roads over the weekend and just give it time. It's coming around.
Yeah, and Pelling was out this morning, grooming the rock in from the edges on Dowd's Road from Libertyville South to kind of, basically get another layer of chips on the tire ruts, and that's really where you have the issues, is where the tires are on, and as I told you guys, and pretty much everybody I've talked to, is when you see those tire tracks, nice and shiny black, move over about 1.5 feet and run on the rocks.
And just for the record, the bridge is not open on there.
The bridge is not open. I think by the time Thomas got out there this morning, they'd already had the closure back up. And no, I do not have a firm date on when they're gonna
No,
have
that's
that
fine.
out.
We just,
I talked to Andy Hallman last week with the Fairfield Journal, and they have the project double staffed all winter. And it's just during winter, you have a very short work window because you've got maybe 8 hours of sunlight. That's why we don't count working days during the winter, but we also don't count working days to encourage them to work on the project when they normally would not. So you're not having the bridge closed your full construction season. And they've done all the easy, quick work. And now it's the stuff where you've got to have one guy come in and do his base prep, and then another contractor comes in, sets steel and pours the concrete. And then you have to wait for cure, and then you can do the grading around it. It's the stuff that looks like nothing's going on because it takes forever to coordinate that stuff. But
we've got an open public hearing.
all right, I'll just let it out of the way.
So I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing for the Velvet Lake Railroad Bridge.
So moved.
Second.
We do a roll call. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Everybody that's here, we are in public hearing. Listen to your comments, concerns, desires. Whatever. Huh? Oh, and when you speak, please give Abby your name.
Yeah, David Patient. I'm here to, I'd like to have some answers to, what the debacle is on Pleasant Plain Road.
Well, this public hearing is for the railroad bridge, Dave, but
I was told that they would be at 8:30 that we would talk about Pleasant Plain
we
Road.
had we had an attorney that had court, so we had to move some things up. But if you want to go out and talk to him, there. This is our engineer. And see what the process is there.
So is this something that the supervisors are involved in?
Well, insofar as, I mean, he answers to us, I mean, he is our employee, but he has the expertise. I can't give you answers about something that I'm not, I don't want to say this, I don't know how about seal coating roads. Obviously, we're aware of complaints. I talked to you or Kirsten over the weekend, talked to other folks, emails, pictures and stuff. That's why I drove the Lockridge Road. He's been working on it.
Well, a quick question. Did you guys, okay the expense for this?
So I'm sorry, I just wanted to interject because you are open in a public
Right.
hearing to discuss the railroad bridge. There's a time for public comments later on, right? Are you guys gonna be entertaining them at a later date?
We can
Or
certainly,
are
but like I said, Dave, we are in the public hearing for the railroad bridge, but yes, we approved in his budget, the road projects that he has scheduled. But we've got to go with the railroad bridge right at the moment.
I'm David Graber.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to interject again. Unless you're talking about the railroad bridge, we should put an
Yeah.
end to this conversation and then public comments will be after committee report. Sorry.
I come in about the railroad bridge.
Right.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I didn't.
But I absolutely hate seal coat. I'll just say that. It don't work. It never will work. This is Southeast Iowa. And so I don't know who dreamed up this idea. Anyway, on the bridge, I apologize.
Thank
I get, wound up a little bit. But my mother and myself, we own farm ground just north of the railroad bridge. And anyway, if you close that again on us, it makes us drive about 5.5 miles extra to go take care of the cows. Just husbandry with livestock, to check them every other day or every day. So I think for all purposes, that whatever the reason, whatever the intention of wanting to close that railroad bridge, it totally has not been studied out. I can't believe anybody would want to close it because, back when my father was living, before that, before all the 4-lane and all the other things, that road was a farm to market road. And if you look on the map, that's the straightest route to get out to Highway 34. And then at the end of the road where I live is River Service, and there's many, many folks. I don't know over a period of a year if it's 500 different individuals that come down through that road. I'm not just for sure. But it needs to be studied, and I guess there's a big demand for money. If you're gonna close a railroad bridge, I'd go just east to Lock Reach, where there's a crossing down there that basically just tees into a tar road now, an oil slick road that doesn't really go to nowhere. And if that's all the Burlington Northern wants, let them have that. But this here road here on is mighty important. And I mean, the extra miles, and then there's young families. It's, got children, and you all know, if you got children, you got things you gotta drive and do. And if you got a $50,000 vehicle and then you drive gravel roads for 5 or 10 years, you're gonna have a $5,000 vehicle. And then the road is also, it's just the straightest route to get to Highway 34 to save time. And my father, he talked to supervisors different times about, trying to get the bridge in better repair. And then one time, if the railroad had even put a grade crossing in, he would accept the dirt and maybe some other neighbors too to take that fellow out there and put a grade crossing. And then also just east there is another railroad crossing that maybe the county ought to spend a little money and buy some property off the ditch, and that way, see, right now, when, I've got some oats and some hay and stuff to make over there. I gotta drive, just to make one trip, it's 10 miles or better. And I'd like to have it where I could take, 15 or 20, $30,000 pound stuff, shortcut through there rather than have to drive further around. It takes a long time to drive 10 miles, and you people are farmers, tractors go faster than they used to. But it's still a matter that it takes a lot of time, and time is money. And it's been a good road, and it's a straight road. It's really, the problem, I got farm machinery, and I don't mind gravel roads, just you kind of sneak off a little bit and somebody can go by it. But that blacktop over there, first thing, it's got an underpass. So trucks can't get under it, that's the one east there. And anyway, if it's low, so pole trucks, pots and stuff like that can't go under it. And then if you go the next one east, that's a lot reach, and it's got a 15-ton load limit on. And then if you go west to Umber, I mean, that's just more and more and more gravel. And, but anyway, when I take farm machinery, we have no shoulder on that blacktop road. I mean, you take that, it's either you're on top or you're off. And people drive, of course, on blacktop roads a lot faster than they do on gravel roads. And then it is crooked, all the way to the four corners. But I just, want to make sure that the intention is right in this whole decision of closing the mainstream to 4-lane road or to my home farm to the pasture and the other farm down. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stephen Bergmeyer. When I was supervisor back before 2012, the county does inspections on bridges every year. And that bridge was found to be deficient. Well, I just had a conversation with Pat McAvan and he remembered it. The law is the railroad has to fix a bridge or give us a grade crossing. And it took about 2 years of calling the railroad. But they come and fix the bridge. The abutment was bad. And so they fixed the bridge. I did, as long as it gets inspected for 6 ton, so a school bus can get over it. That's better than having to drive around for 5.5 miles. When you going to do chores, go check the cows. But it's the railroad's bridge. The $100,000 was soon to be spent by the people driving around. 55 cents a mile, doesn't take long to run up $100,000. And it's a railroad bridge, it's their responsibility. They can either fix the bridge or give us a grade crossing. That's the law. At least it was when Pat McAvan went through it for me back when I was supervisor. And so $100,000 is nothing. If they wanted to give us $10 million and put the money back around Lockridge, then go ahead. But $100,000 is just a drop in the bucket in what the people that live there will have to pay.
Okay. I got a question. My Andy Long. I'm Dave's neighbor. But the railroad owns that bridge. Well, they've been negligent for years on that bridge. And the county's let them off the hook. My mother never had an accident in her life, got hit head on that bridge. We've had the technology for years to put a sensor up there to let you know there's a car coming from the other side, but that hasn't happened. I mean, I've been alive for 68 years. Mirror technology was available 68 years ago where they could put a mirror up there where you could see if there's another car coming. And that hasn't happened either. And because of that, my mom lost her driver's license because the state of Iowa discriminated against her because of her age. And, those are issues that need to be addressed with that bridge if we keep it. I mean, and what Dave and them are all saying is that bridge has been paid for how many years by the railroad hasn't put nothing in it. And that's none of our fault. That's the railroad's fault. And like Dave was saying, like Steve was saying, the railroad's got tons of money. They're making tons of money every day going through Lockridge. And we have to accommodate that railroad. Where I'm out turkey hunting in the spring, that railroad's hauling coal fast enough that every 15 to 20 minutes, I got a train going by. So I got to sit there and wait for the train to go by so I can call for the turkeys to hear my calls. I mean, there's a lot of inconvenience that we have to put up with because of the railroad, and there's no excuse for them not putting some money back into that bridge and fixing it. That's my take.
Thank you.
Joe Bergmeyer. We also have a farm on that road, and that road is very well traveled, as a cut through road. And it would take me a very long, because we winter cows on a farm over there, and it would take me a lot, probably 2 hours extra a day just to feed the cows around or hauling feed wagons. And then another inconvenience would be if you live just to the west of there, and anybody that cuts down and cuts through Umber, if that road bridge is closed, we've lived there several years or over 15 years, and the trains don't always stop where they're supposed to stop. And there's trains in front of our road several times. And if that's the case, we'd have to drive clear around to Lockridge, past the junkyard to get out, and go clear up to Spruce to get out. And that's just to go to town, or if my wife lives there, if she gets an emergency call to go on a bed, I mean, that's extra half an hour to get around if the trains do block the road, which they do block that other crossing quite often.
Michelle Bergmeyer, I'll add on to what he said. So I talked with you this winter about the crossing. It was actually iced to the point that people were getting stuck on the Umber crossing. Yes, and
2 years ago.
I called the railroad repeatedly and called anyone that I could get to help, so that we didn't have an injury. There actually was a crossing east of town that it happened on as well. And the railroad had no intention of taking care of it. It wasn't until the sun came out that anything happened at that crossing, and that took days. So for anyone on Umber to go around, trust me, I know exactly how long it takes. There is no straight east to west, north to south road when you go east. Anyone on the English crew would know. Those roads are curvy and windy. You cannot go down any of them very quickly. And half the time the Spruce crossing they have a train across that all the time. Like, that's a favorite spot to stop. So for me to go around, I either have to go back to the east to go west, but the first crossing is the bridge. Suzie, what if you had a horse that was foaling and you called for an emergency? You think of how many dollars you would lose, because I could be at your house in 5 minutes. Now I gotta go around and the railroad bridge is closed. I can't get to you for 25, 30 minutes. And that is how close. You know, the ambulance has the same issue. If you have roads closed and they stop at that Umber crossing all the time, I spend a lot of time calling, to the point that my 10-year-old can sit on hold and wait, because they'll put me on a half-an-hour hold now to talk about the train blocking that road. There is not a good crossing for them to stop at. They could stop before Umber and block that train all the way back to Lockridge and not cross one crossing where it's sitting right now. But they choose to sit and block the crossings. And sometimes they'll do it with their construction vehicles where we can't get across, and they'll sit right there and can I have somebody move so I can get through? They won't even look at you or acknowledge you. So to now close a crossing for their convenience, we can't get out half the time as it is because of their inconvenience. And Andy's exactly right. They don't maintain or repair anything. And they do make a lot of money, and they are very difficult to live around.
Yeah.
Like, if you think of just the time and just the safety hazards of not having another place available for people to cross. And I'll agree, I went on a farm call the other day when you guys were fixing the culvert up that road with the bridge. And we have a neighbor that lives up there, and I saw 3 cars on my way by that were turning around to come back. And on my way back by, there were another 2 cars coming down that road. That road, I didn't realize, is so heavily traveled.
Yeah.
There is no other good north-south road. So for safety and liability, what happens when you can't get across and now you're stuck on a crossing because it's the only way to get across for 3, 4, 5 different crossings? There's no reason to close that crossing.
And by the time you go to the county line crossings like this, and then the one through town, you have to drive through town to get to. So there's no from there to Benton Avenue in Henry County to get across that railroad.
I encourage you guys to watch those crossings when you're driving the roads, because there are times you can only cross in one certain area because they have not maintained that crossing, and you'll about lose a wheel going over them in certain places, and that's in a main traveled area. Like, most of our crossings at parts of the year are down for 1 lane. So to say, oh, well, that bridge isn't safe, it's down to 1 lane. Well, you can't see it as well, but there's technology to take care of that. And the railroad has plenty of money. That's not even something they'd look at. They wouldn't even know that on a budget line. But all of our crossings by Lockridge go down to 1 lane routinely. That's a bogus excuse.
My name's Wayne Nestle. We live on the road. We use a lot, so we'd appreciate it. We usually take it across with our horses. And the low crossing, we have can be problems, of course, of getting the feet into the tracks, so try to have the bridge go across. We have a greenhouse business there, we got a lot of customers coming across.
Yeah.
Roger Ashby.
Yes.
I live on the north end of it and a lot of people use that, whether they're going south or coming north. And just within this last week and a half, the county has replaced one low depth culvert, which I understand county work, took approximately 3.5 days. That, okay, if the people living south of there could not come north, how are they going to get out of that if that bridge is taken out? And there's numerous other culverts down through there that eventually will have to be replaced. And some of them are deep, so that'll take over a week to repair them. So how can safety for fire department, ambulance, anybody get into the houses that can't get out to the south? Be very questionable. If you don't have access all the way out, either direction.
Cause wherever they replace that culvert, it floods the road right there and it's washed the road out
And it was a shallow dig.
between the bridge.
And I'm not complaining about the county for 3.5 days. That's no complaint. They did a fine job. But you get one that's deeper, it's gonna be over a week to replace that. So then people on the other side, if there's no bridge to go out, or no access to get out.
That would be me, I won't be able to feed my cows. I could not get there if that happened.
Did you just say that that's washed out, that where they replace that culvert, or did I misunderstand you?
Before, it floods the road right there. There's enough water comes down, it'll flood the road out. Where they'll wash all the gravel and they cut a ditch in the road there.
Okay, I misunderstood you there. Thanks. Any other comments? Anybody online? Hearing none, I would.
Can I make a comment?
You
My name's
certainly can.
Mary Graber.
Cause you're-
Why was the decision made to close that crossing and not any of the other crossings?
Well, the short answer to that from my perspective was because that's the one the railroad wanted to close.
They wanted to.
Okay, I can't, when I say that, please understand that that's speculation on my part. But that's the one that they came to us with and with a dollar offer attached to it. So why they want to close it? I can't answer that. Yes, sir.
Stephen Birdmeyer, the railroad wants to close all the crossings.
Well,
Because for liability reasons.
yeah,
And so that was just an easy one to start with because they had a cost involved with it. Because it's their bridge, they gotta fix it or they gotta give us a grade crossing. And they don't want no more grade crossing.
right. No, I
Tell
know.
them to fix the
We
bridge.
had that discussion on that nutmeg about making that an aggregate crossing.
Yeah.
So, no, I get where you're going. I mean, you're right. So. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Davis Graver, I'm Dave's my father. We farm over there. We constantly use that bridge. But I guess what I've seen, a couple things, there's truck traffic, a lot of truck traffic. And from I've talked to multiple truckers, I've heard of trucks, there's one thing of GPSs take them the wrong way and they will come up to that bridge. The smart ones will turn around, dumb ones will go across, but they cannot get underneath the underpass. So I would encourage you to look at that. Another thing is, City of Lockridge has a 15-ton limit. So when you look at that right there, there's two, they can't go over their overhead, can't go underneath the underpass, and then they can't go through town. So you are taking them basically out to the county line or all the way to Umber. We're talking 80,000-pound rigs. Like, that definitely makes it a lot trickier because you got these gravel roads. They work for farm use, but they're not designed for these, these truckers, Panama, all these out of staters. And then another thing I like to add is, I don't know how big the county ambulances are, but I'm guessing they can't go over that bridge legally. And maybe I'm wrong on that. 6 ton.
6 ton.
They do push it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A Chewy truck weighs
So with that being said, I guess I would encourage the county, if I'm not mistaken, there's $100,000 being proposed to the county for that bridge. And if that is correct, I would encourage the county to look at, some sort of alternate route, like we do maybe a crossing where it's just like, farm machinery like stuff. Have the bridge for light traffic, like there's one, I do not know the street west of downtown here. I would encourage the county to look at something like that. Maybe some of the landowners would be willing to help on that. Some land, I would encourage something like that so we can get machinery around there. Winter time, because yes, the bridge does get slick. But I would encourage the county to look at something like that so we can keep it flatter, or even the thought of putting a grade crossing in there. Because we all know the railroad's got money. Railroad's not going bankrupt. And so the fact that they're trying to push the county to shut the bridge down for $100,000 is frankly, I mean, it's just smearing everybody, all of our faces in blood. Because $100,000, they probably, they go out to dinner for that much. So, I mean, for them to just do $100,000 is like, I would encourage the county to propose looking at alternative options like grade crossing or, side crossings for heavy machinery, stuff like that for vehicles, because that is a very valuable policy and there is a lot of traffic on that road. I take that road, frequently, to cut through to, Germanville Road, just because it saves time.
A lot of people do.
And it's a very, very, very busy road. And it will affect a lot of people. It will affect Nissley's greenhouse. It will affect, people come down to Graver Services because, it's just cut through. I mean, people aren't like, I'm not gonna go to the big greenhouse because our bridge is shut down. We take our all the way around. And some of this stuff's just, well, it's a convenience thing, but at the same time,
It's live.
it's live and it's, if there was a way to make it where the county could make this a farm market road, this is what I'm encouraging the county, make it a farm and market road where we can get our rigs, our tractors, our grain trailers, everything in and out of there. I would encourage the county to look at that, push back on the road, instead of pushing on you guys, push back and then see what you can make out of them.
People come from a few hours away to go to Gravers and they all cut through that road.
Well, in answer to your question a second ago, again, speculation. You all have talked about the traffic that uses that road, and that's probably why they want to close, because there's I'm guessing, there's a high traffic volume on that road. Yes, ma'am.
Has there ever been a record, Andy said about his mom having an accident. I don't really know of a lot of accidents on that bridge. I've lived in the area for 50-some years now. Has there been?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I didn't know if they proposed that, so well, there's been so many accidents or something that.
No, not that, I think it's just strictly, and Steve's right, we went through this on Nutmeg when Heartland Co-op was building it, and long conversations with them about that underpass and being narrow and so on and so forth, so, and he's right, that grade is, they'll fight tooth and toenail to either prevent an at-grade crossing or to get rid of an at-grade crossing, that's just their liability issues.
Will you fight for us for an at-grade if they say they're gonna close the bridge?
I was for filling that underpass with dirt and making that an at-grade crossing. So, yeah, I mean,
But make it big enough for wider equipment. If you guys go back, you talk about Steve mentioning in 12 that bridge was not maintained. Go back 2-3 years ago, that bridge has never been maintained. If you look at the sides bowed in even. And that railroad, they don't put a dime into that bridge to fix it. And when they did, it wasn't on their ticket. Like that most recent update on that bridge wasn't on their ticket. They didn't put anything into that bridge. Like they do not do anything to maintain or repair those crossings until we are absolutely difficult with them. And that is, they are here for business, just like everybody in this community, and this is our community to make thrive. Like I would go back and ask them to make that, they don't want an at-ground crossing, make that wide enough for us to safely use and not have the liability, or do something to make it safe.
I
But
will
crossing it
tell
with
you-
that much traffic, why don't we just shut the county down? Just shut every crossing then.
well, I
You know
will
what,
give
where do we
you,
stop?
I will give you some history on Woodland Bridge, Washington County. It's been a number of years ago, I think 2004, 2005, maybe a little bit sooner than that. I don't remember. The bridge burned in Washington County. It was a wood bridge. It was much like this bridge. It was a heavily trafficked travel. And people had to go miles out of their way sure that there was emergency vehicle issues. And the railroad refused to do anything, so Washington County sued. Well, how many years? It was almost 6 years, I think, before it ever got through the court system. And ultimately, the railroad was ordered by the court to replace the bridge, but they only had to pay 80% of it. The county had to fund the other 20%. Now, I'm not finding fault there. I'm just simply saying that they will, that's their modus operandi. That's the way that they conduct business. And so. Any
So-
other? Yes, sir.
Does the county make any revenue off of that railroad coming through our county?
No.
So is that a possibility that we start taxing them for using our county?
um,
Say, if you wanna come through our county, you gotta pay a tariff
I
to get
think
through our
that,
county.
it's a good idea, but I don't think that.
So easy.
We do collect, real estate or property taxes on it.
But
We can embargo roads. We threaten that with the DOT, but I'm not sure about the railroad. Any other comments?
So how does that work? Okay, I just a random question. So if we do collect taxes off of them, they are then liable and responsible to upkeep their property. Like what if somebody in town, you know, I've had some clients that lost their houses and had them taken. Why can't we hold them to the standard of taking care of the property they own in our county? And I know you have to fight them, but I mean, that's how the railroad does business. You have to have the expectation for them too.
It took 2 years to get that bridge opened back up after,
Well, how long did, out here east on 34, how long did they have that? Almost a year they had that crossing closed out there, and it was an ag-grade crossing. They just closed it. We argued and argued. You were still here then. We argued and argued and argued with them to try and get that open. And finally, one day they opened it. It wasn't that we didn't try.
We called on that icy crossing with people getting stuck on it for 3 days till the sun came out. They were gonna do nothing about it. Like,
That's just the way they operate. Just look like when I had to, they're responsible for all the fence on the railroad too. And I called and got past all these different people. It wasn't until I called them and told them I was gonna put a dozer pile on the railroad tracks and do it myself. I had a backhoe down there within a day, taking out the fence that they were supposed to take out. I mean, that's the way you gotta deal with them.
Yeah.
I was nice for 6 months and then I just had enough.
I called the railroad so many times when it was first closed that the people retired. And I was talking to, I had to find somebody else. And you just passing by, and then finally when they did come up and fix the bridge, they said it was an emergency. And it was, because I told them either fix the bridge or give us a grade crossing.
So have other counties in this state having the same issues with this railroad?
Yep.
So it seems to me this may be more of a state issue than a county issue.
That's
Maybe our state representatives need to get involved in this.
Well,
Oh,
Well,
don't get me started on that one. I'll leave that sleeping dog alone.
is that something that should happen though? If that's a legitimate
you're,
question.
you
If
know, I mean,
everybody's
this seems
fighting
like a
this,
class
why-
action deal to me
then why
instead
do
of
we
just a
sit here?
Jefferson
Yeah.
County deal.
The state is already involved. They've got a law that says they gotta fix the bridge or give us a grade crossing. Well, that law's on the books, and if they ignore it, what the hell? We can't do anything about them ignoring it.
That's just like we have a law in the books that says no unfunded state mandates, been there since 1994. Doesn't make any difference.
So we need to get somebody else involved higher up.
Well, you need to get somebody different involved.
Right.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I've got one. I've had phone calls
Um,
from 3 different people. I just want these people to know I've had calls.
We can't during public comment.
I'm not, okay.
So any other public comment?
Okay, so I will ask a question. Are you getting responses then from other people that are not here today on this bridge? Or whether, what are they? They want it closed or they don't want it closed?
They're all in, I think ones that I've heard from are in the same ballpark as
They
you.
don't want it done. And thinking back to what Michelle said, I've worked at Graver Services since the early 80s. I've got customers coming from County's Way and they use that road. Thousands since that time, thousands.
Any other comments?
Well, and what they're doing is, like you said, it takes years. Well, that's always big corporate's tactic. Well, we'll stall people out and maybe they'll get tired of coming at us and stuff. But It's like they don't care about the businesses that they're gonna affect. This man with the greenhouse could lose thousands of dollars every year and possibly go out of business because of their decision.
I remember Fort Madison fought with the railroad for years and years and years over that maintenance building down there, so. Okay, any other comments?
I just hope you wouldn't take $100,000 to close that bridge. That'd be the stupidest thing in the world.
You will have some very unhappy people.
I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hey, Joe.
I just want you people to know I've had 4 phone calls against closing it.
They
But
involved
this,
his wife, Mary Ann, but that's.
oh no, she doesn't call me, she yells at me.
It's justified.
It's, the railroad approached us offering to close it for 100,000. We needed to hear from you people, the public, as to what we needed to do. And I appreciate everybody being here today. It's pretty obvious what we're hearing. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would make a motion.
Can I
that
say
we do
something?
Not close.
Can I say
You
something?
know you cannot. Okay. If you
He is
insist.
so hard to control. You know, no one has said yes that called me. Other people that aren't in this room called me with no's. I wanna, the biggest thing to me is the economic development, which Michelle, you would be hurting. Joe, would you, everybody in here would be hurting if we close this. You know? What, I think our first duty is for the economic development of this town and the safety. I do like the grade crossing. I've seen one before. Work pretty slick.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Okay. I would make a motion that we do not close the bridge
I second that motion.
at Velvet Beach.
I second that.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or the same sign, just for the sake of argument. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Now, we didn't charge to get in. But
We already paid.
Oh, okay.
We're paid out.
Well,
All right.
I guess we're here, huh?
Stop over to
Thank
Treasurer's
you.
office September 1st and pay again.
Can they sending checks now?
No, you pay it.
You get a check.
You take care of my son's dog all the time. He's got more dogs, I think. you do.
Mrs. Kramer,
What's this?
Yes,
are you handling?
Thank you, Dave.
Am I who?
Dave,
Brought you lots of blankets.
I am handling it. Yes.
thank you.
She don't help us.
Thanks for listening.
Get rid of one.
No, her dad is the one that ventured great
Never
services.
my opinion. I don't know.
I'm
Tell me
David.
unless they do a bad job.
Hit her mama Sonia.
Thank you. Take care.
Oh.
Oh, Tuesday.
We'll let you have a seat.
Oh, thanks.
That was entertaining.
We're gonna go back to.
Yeah, they have some,
Oh, no, but I don't have a stick.
but the bridge might fall down.
Which is also a concern.
Yeah, but I forgot to take a stick.
We need to sign it somewhere. Doors. No.
Okay, we're gonna go back to it for just a second. Okay,
No working today.
wait,
Yes, sir.
you want to talk to us about this Department of Transportation?
This is the grant we applied for to go with the grant that we may get from Representative Miller, through Representative Melanie's office for 110
Okay.
from Packwood Road west to Beacon School. This particular grant is for the safety features of that project. It pays for the paved shoulders, the rumble strips, wider pavement markings so that they're more visible. And even though we don't have the federal grant yet, we have been awarded the state grant contingent on that. But the state wants to get their paperwork all closed out by the end of the fiscal year. So they will award us the grant, and then if we don't get the federal grant, we just return the grant. But
So you
that cleans up the books for the DOT.
So you just need a motion to approve?
Yes, sir.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I think there's a place on the back of it for One of those papers has a place for your signature. How about North Carolina? That's good. And then another place for Christie to sign, I believe. Thank you.
All right. I don't remember who you are, but it took you a second for a while.
So my name's Josh. I'm a
Okay.
paramedic with the ambulance service. Yeah, so it's fun coming back to work after being gone a week. So many things to catch up on. We do have a new EMT that was approved last time. She'll be starting on the 26th. She's just part-time. Still need some medics. That's going to be an issue for quite a while. I do have another, well, a couple other people who are interested in full-time positions. We don't currently have any full-time EMT openings. So I'm gonna try to look at the schedule again, see if we can move some people around and be able to work on that a little bit and help with overall staffing. Along with that, I don't think it's a hard, fast rule, but we're putting it into place anyway. Effective July 1, all of our part-time or PRN staff are going to be required to work at least one shift a month. That was kind of a soft rule, I think, when I took over, and I haven't really enforced it. But due to the amount of overtime we're paying and everything else, I have a handful of PRN staff that haven't worked in months. Like, if you're going to be on our roster, you're going to help us out. So we're enforcing that. I'll be enforcing that starting July 1. I think the hospital's mad at me again. Leave that as a standing item. Last night at 1:30-ish, we were called to take a patient from the ER up to Mayo, up in Rochester, which is about a 9-hour turnaround for a crew that had been up since 7 a.m. and our priorities are obviously 911. So I got involved because the medic called me and she's like, hey, so I called and talked to the charge nurse at the ER. This patient had an progressive aneurysm in his abdomen. He was new onset atrial fibrillation, which is just a arrhythmia. Was on medications that were not controlling the rate. He was kind of a train wreck. And they thought it was a good idea for this patient to go at 1:30 in the morning by ground to Mayo. Instead of a flight, right? So again, I think they're mad at me, but I said no, we're not going to take that. One, mostly for crew safety, because running 911s all day, no opportunity to take a nap. Now we're going to put you on a transfer, 9 hours, which is just not safe. But two, that patient again was kind of a train wreck from the sounds of it, and I don't think they seem to understand that we're by ourselves in that ambulance and we don't have any other resources. So if that aneurysm were to rupture, being in the back of a bouncy ambulance bouncing down the highway, if that were to become worse, our only options are to divert to the nearest hospital, which may not even be the same level as what we have here. So from the sounds of it, they actually ended up flying that patient, which is what I suggested when I was on the phone at 2 o'clock this morning. And so it all turned out okay, but just know that if you do hear, if you haven't heard yet, you might hear. And I got an email this morning from Stacy about wanting to talk about transfers. So there's that. To me, ultimately, it's crew safety. I'm not going to put a crew on a 9-hour transfer at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's not smart.
I'm not, obviously, I have no medical knowledge whatsoever. I struggle with Band-Aids. But
That's fair.
logic dictates to me that first off, I don't know why Mayo, but
So the patient was recently discharged from there.
okay.
Like, and I'm not
No, all I'm
saying the
saying-
patient
all
didn't
I'm
need to
saying
be
is-
at Mayo, absolutely. However,
I don't know why you wouldn't have automatically are flattened.
They
apparently
amaze me.
he wasn't critical enough to justify air. But
We could bounce him on the road.
we could bounce him on the roads for, well, 4.5 hours getting up there, yeah. Yeah, so that was, so if you hear about it, that's what that
I
is.
will have them call Susie, because I probably will get sideways.
For sure, have them call me.
I did hear somebody stopped by last week while I was gone. And there was some. Okay, there was some miscommunication, misunderstanding about a potential transfer. I touched base with the hospital. From the sounds of it, that wasn't a thing. There was just back-to-back trips out of the ER. And there wasn't anything about us not taking a transfer or anything else. It was just busy. So I don't know. I'll wait to hear more information on that, but. So yeah, I'm on their #1 list.
Yeah, I told you you'd be #1.
I am, apparently. Troponin testing, we're still waiting on Dr. Moreno to figure out what she wants to do. I'm still a big advocate for it, and I've touched base with her again just to see if we can move that forward. While I was gone, someone used our dumpster. I don't know how big of a deal that is, but it was full. I got some photos. It was full of like drywall and like heaping over our dumpster. So I'm gonna look at the security cameras and see if I can figure out who that was. Oh, again, I don't. Oh, I don't know how big of a deal that is. But yeah, that was a thing.
Well, I don't know, are they doing construction work at the old Walmart that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, but something could have started. I don't know.
I'm not saying they had anything to do with it.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna pull up the cameras and see if I can
Where's your
identify
dumpster located at? The backside?
on the old road between us and the bank.
Okay.
Which on that note, I did reach out. I haven't heard anything back yet. I'm gonna just walk over there and see if I can talk to them because that little road in between there is awful. It's gonna tear up our rigs at some point, so I'm gonna see if there's anything we can do to clean up that space.
Well, if nothing else, maybe they'll deed it over to us.
That'd be cool.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that they would. I don't know that there's any use for it now. So yeah, it's worth an ask. GEMT, as soon as I get the final stuff from this fiscal year, I'm gonna finish putting that packet together and get it sent. It's due before November, so we've got plenty of time. A lot of the little stuff is done yet. Or a lot of the little stuff is done already. I'm just waiting for a few more things to come in from the end of the year. And get that updated and sent off, and hopefully that is worth the headache that it's been. Otherwise, training program, we're still waiting on Dr. Rofer to get her board certification stuff renewed, and still waiting to hear back from the state. I still have no idea target date. Hopefully September, but I don't know. But I do have like 20 some EMTs that are interested in doing the paramedic class, so I think that first class is gonna be mind-boggling. But it'll be good times.
So is the ordinance or whatever, the set the public hearing for the ambulance offset program? Are we ready to move forward on that?
So it wasn't ready and did not get published because
Oh,
the ordinance wasn't completed
okay.
at the time.
So we can't set the public hearing?
I believe it is now.
Okay. So
I thought she got it done, but that's okay.
So is July 7th Can we do it on July 7th? That'd be 2 weeks.
Sure.
Well, somebody's not gonna be here on June 30th, huh? Well, okay. So July 7th, right? At 9 AM?
Sure.
Okay. Does that work for you?
Sure, I'll be
Does
here.
that work for you guys?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
You have nothing else planned that day?
all right.
If it works for Abby, it works for all.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, Abby just randomly takes days off, so I'm not with her. But she didn't go to North Carolina like somebody.
Who did that? Yeah, going out there was great. The trip was good. Coming back, apparently Apple Maps decided to have an aneurysm and sent me on some Dragon's Tail road through the mountains on a 2-lane.
No,
Yeah, no, it was okay.
it was beautiful.
It
wasn't
was gorgeous. The scenery in the mountains, I love it. It would have been awesome going, but when I'm just over it and I'm ready to come home, just 4-lane all the way so I can get home. It added like, it was a horrible trip on the way back, but it was really pretty. I love it out there. It's gorgeous.
All right, so I see Tony is no
I
longer with
didn't
us.
said that.
I didn't?
I mean, we talked about a date and time, but no, I mean, like.
Oh, I'll make a motion for July 7th at 9 AM.
Second that motion.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Cool. Anything else for me?
No, we're good.
Thanks, guys.
And Tony's no longer here.
I'll stop out.
He had to go.
Oh,
He
perfect.
had to go.
I appreciate that.
But I did tell him his check was probably in the
Okay,
auditor's office.
come on up, Bob. And Bob, I'm going to turn time over to Susan for just a brief few minutes.
Sure.
We'll be back. Thank you.
All right.
Anybody else need to take a little break?
No, I mean.
Morning, Bob. How are you?
This is, that's what it is to everyone.
Well, you got it wrong here, intelligent community.
There we go. That's who we are. Very clearly from the
But I
discussion this
wouldn't
morning.
give it, yeah. Well, what do we have? What do we have going? Thanks for coming.
Well, thank you. Some of you may be aware that 3 years ago, we started competing in the Intelligent Communities Forum Intelligent City competition. This is done all over the world. This is an organization, nonprofit, based in New York City that covers the entire world. And the purpose of the organization initially was to clue cities in on the necessity to take broadband seriously. That if they didn't, then they would be not on the railroad or the canal or the river, or they wouldn't be anywhere. And over the 25 years, it's evolved into not only do you have broadband, but what are you doing with it? Are you creating economic development? What kind of a community development are you creating by leveraging the capacity of broadband and other technologies to open up economic opportunities, to make economic opportunity more accessible? And so I'm part of a discussion group, and one of the fellows there was the head of IT at the city of Columbus, and after a year or so, he said, "You should really enter Fairfield in this intelligent communities thing." And I go, "Really?" I mean, competing against New Taipei City and places like that. He said, no, it's not how much you do, it's what you do. And from what you've told us about Fairfield, and from what my research shows, you got to do it. So I did. And the process is you fill in a narrative. And of course, I worked with Ed and Connie and Mendy, and we all kind of worked to get the data together. The first narrative is much more just factual. You know, how much of this do you have? How much of that do you have? What are you doing here? What are you doing there? And so you send that in. And there's a rubric, there's a scoring algorithm that is done by a panel of, I think, 7 or 8 judges, including eminent business professors from Columbia and people like that. And so all of the narratives are scored, and the narratives that score the highest, the top 21, get to be included in the Smart 21 for that year. Well, lo and behold, 3 years ago, they named us to the Smart 21, which means you then compete for the top 7. And the top 7 competition involves a much more extensive narrative. There's 6 domains, and I can't remember all of them, but there's 6 domains that ICF pays attention to. And so the narrative is, what are you doing in this domain, that domain, that domain, that domain, that domain? And so we did it 3 years ago, and we did not win. On the other hand, Robert Bell, who was actually showed up, I think, Joe, you were there that day when he showed up at Traction Thursdays. One of the founders called me and said, you didn't make the top 7 because it's not scored by them, it's scored by the panel. But Fairfield is clearly such a unique example of a dynamic small city that has leveraged technology from the very beginning. Would you please come and speak at our global summit? And that was October of 2023. And so I worked with Werner to put up a slideshow, and I wrote from my 12 minutes of fame and made the presentation, and it was quite a hit. And so then last year we put in our narrative again, updated it, or rather our assessment, updated the narrative, and we did not win again. This year we updated our assessment, and we worked hard on the narrative, updated it, put some projects in like the wastewater that I was not even aware of how innovative that was, how to world class that was. And the executive director also helped by not only working with trying to format their jinky forum that I couldn't get to work right, but he also looked through our entire application and kind of pruned out the stuff. I mean, I threw everything but the kitchen sink in there, figuring that more is always better. And so he cleaned out some of the stuff that was really actually very unique, but would not score necessarily that high on the algorithm, on the rubric. And last week we got word that we were chosen as one of the top 7. Now, there's over 400 cities around the world, from millions of people to not too many cities our size, but we punch above our weight. So we scored the 7 in that top 7 across the entire world relative to their criteria. So what that means is we get a site visit from the founders or a delegation, I think both founders and a delegation, in September or October. Then we have the opportunity to put a world-class presentation on what Fairfield is and why we deserve to be number 1 in the world. And we all go to Vietnam, to the Minh Dong region of Vietnam, which was named the number 1 region when I was there in New York City in 2023. And they're hosting the International Summit. And so we will have, political people, we'll have economic development people, we'll have private citizens in our delegation. And we will work like crazy with Mindy and you and everyone else to really put our best foot forward. And we'll also be working on preparing our community for the site visit. Now, listening to the proceedings this morning, there's a lot of grunt work, involved in county work, a lot of no-win situations, that you're facing. And at the same time, the quality of the community from top to bottom is what we're really looking at. You all are really the bridges and the underpinnings, and there's the economic development, and there's also the way the city looks. I joined the beautification commission because I thought it was important that we upgrade the way the city looks. It was easier to sell a car that looks nice on the outside. It's easier to sell a car that looks nice on the outside and is questionable mechanically than a car that's perfect mechanically and questionable on the outside. So we've got great mechanics in the community, but we have some things that we could work on, right? So we're working on that, the nodes, and I'm the weed guy. Now I'm getting rid of all the weeds in the entire place. And it makes a huge difference, makes a huge difference. So we get to up our game for the site visit. Then we get to put together a world-class presentation on what we can show the world that we have done uniquely. And in a private communication that Robert sent me, and which I'll be happy to share with you, he said he was personally, for years, saying that their model, their methodology, because they really have done this competition to get detailed information about what works all over the world. And so they've developed these methodologies that they offer communities, which is the reason I'm here, to extract a little money from the supervisors so that we can join Fairfield / Jefferson County. And this is a whole county thing, and not just Fairfield. We can join ICF. But he said, for years, he said, all of their methodology applies equally to large cities, middle-sized cities, and small cities. He said, we didn't actually have any evidence. It applied to cities the size of Fairfield. They said, I was incredibly happy to see that Fairfield rose to the top 7. He said, now I can say with evidence that our methodologies are valid to even very small cities. In fact, we are the smallest city ever to make the top 7, which is a big deal in my view. So I'm here. The more colorful brochure is what is at offer by becoming a member of ICF. Now, it's fascinating that we have not yet come up with the $1,500 over these 3 years, but they have seen to it that to invite us into the competition. We're now number 7. I think we ought to come up with $1,500 to join the organization. And you can read that over. We immediately get an evaluation, which they value at $2,500, to come in and do a more fine-grained assessment of the community, so that we can, and then this is benchmarked against best practices all over the world. So by doing this, we're able to actually take advantage of looking at, well, what do communities in Turkey do? What do communities in Argentina do? What do communities in the Far East do? What do communities in the Middle East do? And in Canada and Australia and UK and all that. So that's the offer. It's $1,500. If we split it 4 ways between the chamber and FIDA and city and county, it's like $375. If we split it 3 ways, it's $500. I would say if we could get a $500 commitment from the county, I imagine from 2 of the 3 other entities will be able to pull out 500, and then we can join the club. And I think it'll be great. The other thing that making the top 7 gives us access to is that you'll see on the one sheet, you'll see where the other cities are. We're only 2 cities in the US. One is a 30,000 person suburb of Columbus, and the other is Fairfield. And we have one in Spain, one in Turkey, one in the UK in there, we have Canada. So we have an opportunity to, I say we broadly, anyone who wants to dialogue with our top 7 cohort, they'll have opportunities to do that. So that's my pitch. Questions?
Do you foresee this bringing more economic development into the community? Or do I need to address over here or?
Well-
Ed, the Grow Fairfield or?
Well, Mindy is here, I'm sure, to support. I would make the observations I have from many people. So what do you get out of it? Well, city of 10,000 making top 7 is a big deal to begin with. What we get out of it is what we make out of it. You know, they don't give us money, that kind of thing, but we can make out of this if we utilize our bully pulpit and we really live into this thing and we do a fabulous job upgrading for the site visit. Who knows what economic development will come by being known throughout the world. And this is a worldwide organization. As a top 7 committee. What is it? What's in the water in Fairfield that makes it that way? So it's mainly what we make out of it. That's really, you know, what are we going to make out of this, out of this honor? And I think that we can do a lot. So Mandy, what are your thoughts?
So I think it's another feather in our cap, right? So when we're talking about why someone should come here, we are one of only 2 cities in the entire United States who got top 7. And I think Bob is very humble when he says it's a lot of work, and we've made top 21 for a couple of years now, but we've bumped into that top 7. So when somebody's looking at cities and they're saying, why should I come to Fairfield? We can say, well, this is one of the many things that we have. And connectivity is very important, especially when so much remote work is happening in today's market. Connectivity is huge. So I think just, it's a feather in our hat. It's another brand. It's another, like on your race car suit, you got a new patch for you. It says, I mean, I think that all of it works in tandem, but I think Bob's right. If we don't tell anybody, nobody knows. So it's one of those things that we'll start promoting and that we need to have listed on all of our websites. It needs to be, you know, just like all the other achievements.
I was just reading over this stuff. At first glance, discount access to community assessments, 20%. Is that an ongoing thing we would have to do every year?
No, it's something, we can join this year, and if we don't feel like we're getting $1,500 worth out of it, we don't have to pay up next year. I believe the initial assessment, the deal that I worked out with the executive directors, we get that for free. We get that $2,500 initial assessment for free.
This is a one-time assessment or?
I think it's what, you know, I'm going to be talking with Matt Owen, the executive director, sometime this week. And then we will convene a kind of a guiding coalition. I will hope that someone from the supervisors will be part of that. Mandy, Ed, Connie, I'm going to present at council tonight. Said, well, Connie, you're presenting, I'm backing you up. You know, you're the mayor, you know, we own this thing now. And you're the supervisors, you're the top of the heap in the county. And so I feel like if we all kind of get behind this thing, then we'll be able to maximize the benefit. And Mandy's right. And if we don't talk it up, people won't know about it. But this has really broken through. The first year when I did it, we all cooperated and I wrote the thing up, and it took a long time. That assessment, I probably worked 40, 50 hours to pull that thing together. And it barely made a ripple in people's awareness. The second year more, the third year, when I was putting the thing together, everyone was on it and was offering information. And then when it happened, put out the email, put it on social media, and I've got tremendous response all over the country. People saying, yeah, Fairfield's clearly a thing.
And I don't think we need an annual assessment, if that's what you're asking. I think that $1,500 to get a free $2,500 assessment for me is a no-brainer, right? But then you take that assessment, and much like the downtown assessment that we recently did,
Right.
we actually have to have action plans. It can't just be another report that we put on a shelf and that we dust off once a year. You know, we actually took the downtown assessment, we're actually moving the mark on that. I think that this assessment will look at things way different than the downtown assessment does, and it'll give us some more targets for how we improve our county and our city for the future.
And in terms of economic development, I mean, the downtown assessment and the main streets, in my view, is actually absolutely critical. Because when people come into the downtown, they're gonna make the determination, do I want this place or don't I want this place? And yet this is gonna be much more hard edged in terms of what can we do to maximize the capacity to have economic development? What additional things can we do, or what can we leverage that we've already done? In my way of thinking, this is a tremendous honor and we all did it. I filled in the form, but we all did this thing. We did this collectively. So we can feel very good about that. And my view is that we use this to live into this honor in the future. We use this to build our sense of self-efficacy, that we can cause, make happen, and bring about what we choose. We have high self-efficacy. This is going to help us have even higher sense of efficacy collectively. So we can actually utilize this to drive economic development.
So I've got a quick question.
Yes, Lee.
And it's probably not an easy question to answer. Because depending upon who you ask, you're gonna get a different answer. My guess will be each time. Define for me what economic development is.
It's a really damn good question, isn't it?
It is. I think it is.
Well, no, it's an excellent question. Of course, if I was being totally Socratic, I'd say, Lee, what do you think economic development is? But-
Well, I will tell you what I think it isn't.
Okay, yeah, this might be a good jumping off line.
And I understand, Joe and I had the opportunity, for example, the other day to attend a groundbreaking, and there's a development going on out behind the hospital, which is a great development. But, and Susie knows, because she and I have had this conversation, based on what I would consider our wage base in this community, a $200,000 house is not affordable. That's the long and the short of it. So when I think of economic development, I think of economic development, and I get it, and I understand what you're talking about, the esoteric value of coming into a community, and you see, Minnie and I have had this discussion as well. I mentioned here the other day when we talked about when I drive through Mount Pleasant and what I see going through Mount Pleasant as opposed to what I see going through here, the differences are stark. So that I get it, that you said something, your analogy was great. In terms of if the car looks good on the outside and it's appealing, I'm going to take a step further and I'm going to at least see if.
Trying to see if the dang thing starts, right?
Right, so I get that. But to me, economic development is lifting that wage base. Okay, I don't know what all it's going to take to make that happen, but $15 an hour isn't going to get it done. $20 an hour is not really getting it done. And we've been dealing with this as a board. Dwayne's been dealing with it. We've been hammered from the state regarding property tax, and that our property taxes are too high. I don't disagree with that. But the economic development of when people come to us like yourself, and don't misunderstand, I'm not finding fault. You're coming and asking us for money that the state is taking away from us because they're saying we're charging too much for property values. And so it becomes, and this Dwayne is a perfect example. His product, the miles of roads are remaining the same, but the cost to maintain those roads has gone up exponentially. Not because of our labor, but because of the cost of the product.
Yeah.
And so how do we define economic development and how do we make that happen?
Okay, well, a couple of data points. In a connected world where our connection with the outside world is basically through internet connectivity and also relationships. The first point of departure, or a point of departure, is how easy is it to do business? Just like in the old days, if you're on a seaport well, you're in business. Then if you're on a canal, you're in business. And if you're on a railroad, you're in business. The railroad goes through your town, doesn't go through the other, your town flourishes, the other one dies. You know, then the interstate highway system, are you on the interstate or you're not on the interstate? So the internet is just another one of those, one of those features. The other thing that people don't appreciate, and I will send you all an interview I did with Kellen Gracie. Kellen was the head of the Venture Forward program with GoDaddy. And they were studying the impact of micro businesses relative to overall economic development, dollars in the economy per micro business or as a percentage of the micro businesses. And this is very, very relevant. And he said, you wouldn't believe Fairfield's numbers. He said, and now a micro business might just be a website, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's a business, but what they're looking at is the correlation between the number of micro businesses per 100 population and these hard metrics that you can actually measure. Well, they wrote a white paper, and Kellen got a little trouble by sharing it with me. I'm going to ask him if it's not working for GoDaddy anymore, I'll share it. But if I share it with you, you guys got to keep it to yourselves. They did a white paper looking at 3 cities, large, medium, and small, that they judged to be hardened and resilient, and 3 cities, large, medium, and small, that they judged to be at risk. Fairfield was picked as the small city that was hardened and resilient based on their number of micro businesses per 100 population. The other 2 in our cohort had like 8 out of 100, 9 out of 100. Fairfield had 52. So we didn't even put you on the chart. Now, does that mean 52 businesses per 100? No, but those are GoDaddy has 46% of the website market. So this was relative to their numbers. So economic development is how easy is it? Part of it is how easy is it to start a business? Is the infrastructure and psychology of the place amenable to starting a business? Because the more businesses you start, and how I interpreted that data is the more micro businesses you start, the more 2 guys over Brown Law Firm 42 years ago turns into Cambridges. There's a straight line correlation between the number of micro businesses and the number of businesses that get to be a real business, and then a medium-sized business and a large business. So part of the value of what we've already done is make it clearly, what Ed told me, that even before the advent of high-speed internet, even DSL, Fairfield had an astonishingly, many, many factors higher density of telex and telephone lines. So this is not new. We've been doing this for a long time. And so I would say that my view is economic development is how much is entrepreneurship valued and how many new businesses get started. And the fact that how we fund all of this is the real hot issue, right? How do we get this funded? Because clearly development costs money. And if we have a higher density of successful businesses, even micro businesses, that's going to add to the funding base. So I'd say that how easy is it to start a business is maybe a proxy for, how good are you at economic development? Getting an Amazon warehouse in, to me, is not the answer. That's a good way to drive wages down.
Say they only pay $15 an hour.
Building small businesses that create wealth, that create businesses that pay more than $15 an hour, to me, what are you doing? Because that's a little bit of a short game, but it's mainly a medium term and long game. Are we playing the long game economically? And this kind of recognition and talking this up, because we are in many ways what we say we are. We are what we, I read a study one time that looked at ancient civilizations and looking at the evidence of, did they talk about themselves in elevated terms after they got great or before they got great? Before they had the population density and all that. And their study showed that in 100% of the cases, they started talking themselves into something greater before they became great. This is just a big old opportunity to talk ourselves into the next level.
If we decided to do this, what would the money come from?
Why are you looking at me?
You got
always-
money?
You've always been on top of the budget stuff.
Well, there's several places that you can, bring it from as far as that part of it goes.
I mean, money's tight, I realize that.
I mean, we talked about the ARPA funds earlier, we still have a little pool of money about that you guys got about 5 years ago. That we set on for most of the 5 years, but I guess what I would say is before we commit it fully, that we see if others come in.
Can I speak for a minute? I agree with you on seeing if others, how many eggs are in the basket, you know? When I worked for the college and the federal grant for economic development, this region, 30 years ago, this region, Fairfield was thriving. Not that they aren't still thriving, but we had lost some businesses.
Yeah.
If you look at the Main Street Iowa thing, Ottumwa and Mount Pleasant are far better than we are as far as getting local businesses to come in. And we've lost that edge, as far as I'm concerned. If you look at Mount Pleasant, they've got a new everything going in. Every week they're reporting something they have. I can remember before Walmart came in, there was nothing else there.
Oh, they survived the closing of the college and they survived the closing of the
Correct.
turkey plant or whatever it was.
The West Liberty, West Liberty wanted to come here
Yeah.
at that point. Mount Pleasant got them.
Well, and I'll tell you, and I'll be honest with you, and it's just stuck in my craw ever since. And I understand, that people have differing opinions, and that's what makes us great. But when Heartland Co-op came to town, there was no overt support from the city of Fairfield. No, they were silent. We had a group that formed that allegedly had 2,500 members. I don't think most of them were from here, neither here nor there. They went to the Iowa Department of Economic Authority, and they managed to get that entity up there at the state, which I've never forgiven them for. The entity at the state, to withdraw $1 million in tax incentives to Heartland Co-op. Now, they built anyway because economically, the railroad was the place they chose. The fact of the matter is what we did was we shut them out. So now Heartland Co-op sits out there and they're not part of the community. They could have been. They would have contributed to the civic center. They would have contributed to a lot of things. They would have been a community partner, but because of the way that they were treated, they built and they do their business. It's been an economic, I don't want to say support, but an economic benefit to our agricultural community. Even if they don't pay a premium on grain, it forces others to meet it. It saves on transportation costs. There was a benefit there. I think we were short-sighted. And I also think because that hit the state's largest newspaper, that hammered us economically. Companies got to looking at that and said, we don't need that. Okay, now I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that a truck stop is the end all, but I will sit here and tell you that a truck stop went on down the road.
You're
another
talking Mount
community.
Pleasant?
Yes.
Oh,
to
yeah.
Another community, because they didn't want to deal with all of it, what had gone with Heartland Co-op, but they felt with Heartland Co-op coming in, that that truck stop was a, you know, could have been a beneficial thing for their bottom line. We always talk about how much lower, most of the time, gas prices are in the city of Mount Pleasant as compared to here. And so what I'm saying is that I think that we tend to get caught up in certain kinds of businesses and not look at the bigger picture. And so I think when we talk about economic development and growth, that entrepreneurship is great. But the benefits to our ag community, and our ag community, if we lose agriculture, we're just driving away, we'll just become a dust bowl here without ag. Okay, there is no question about that, at least in my mind. And so I just think that we have to be careful in singling out, or I'm not sure how I want to say it, not pigeonhole ourselves to one type of economic development. Anyway, we do need to move on, so we do need to make a decision.
I just want to make a point.
Sure.
It's like a puzzle. It takes every piece in that puzzle. Nobody's better than anybody.
Yeah, because if it's a
But, you know-
500-piece puzzle and you only got 400.
No, it's 25 pieces, Lee. I'm thinking about you.
I get it. Okay, so what does the board want to do? I mean, you can, in a motion, if you make a motion, you can put caveats to the motion, as well as where would you like to see the funds drawn out of?
Wouldn't it be nice though for the Jefferson County Supervisors to be the leading the charge in supporting this, as opposed to waiting for someone else to say yes first?
It's kind of like what we do with the ambulance. I agree with you, Mindy.
Sorry, but
Well, I guess what I would say in that regard is, if you don't get the money elsewhere, what's the point?
and you can put your caveat on that we collect all $1,500, but I would like to be able to say, when Bob goes tonight, to be able to say the supervisors are in,
And I.
if the city and the other entities will step up. We did a lot of that with Main Street, because then it makes other people realize that they have to support and show up.
In talking with Connie this morning over coffee, she's going to be very definite. with
And
the
if you
council.
do this, you need to invoice us.
Pardon?
You need to invoice us. We have to have an invoice.
Oh, we'll handle all that, but I agree with Minnie that it would be a great thing if the supervisors were the first one to say, okay, we'll put our $500 in.
So there you go.
I'll make the motion that we participate in this if the city, Rural Fairfield, and Chamber of Commerce also participate. And if you don't get support from the others, then we will not be involved in it.
I
So
think that's
Can
fair
we
enough.
take the money from
Can I,
those ARPA's?
can I
No, I
amend
think
that?
we should take.
Yes,
care
you
of
can.
it.
Can we just amend it to say that the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors will participate contingent upon
That's
collecting the full $1,500? Wherever the source is irrelevant.
Care funding.
Do we need to put a dollar amount on it?
Well.
Well,
I think it'd be good idea to put 500. Now, if we get more participation, we don't have to pay that much.
And you said CARES funding.
I think care funding, we still have that money. I'd like to get rid of it.
It's just a line item in the general fund now.
Correct.
You don't
Correct.
care for it anymore.
This isn't part of the motion, but we would like updates. You know, what's
Absolutely.
going on and stuff.
Absolutely.
We'll give updates, and I will ask for active participation.
So I have,
Well, you've already asked for that.
That's okay. That's why I'm here. And I appreciate you inviting me, Joe.
So we have a motion to contribute $500 to the community membership Fairfield, proposal for Fairfield, Iowa. Contingent upon raising $1,500 and funding it out of. CARES funding. Yes. Any further discussion?
What was the second one?
I second that.
Okay, You were paying attention here.
SUSIE.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
now, where are we at here? Discuss and consider. 10:30.
10:30, yes.
Discuss and consider temporary speed limit.
I've got to run, but thank you
Thank
all very much. Thank you, Sue.
Yeah.
Joe, thank you, Lee.
Yep. You want to reduce the speed limit?
I would like to temporarily reduce the speed limit on those routes that we recently chip sealed. 110 Pleasant Plain Road and Dow's Road, just to minimize the chance of flying chips causing car damage. We posted a advisory speed limit of 35 miles an hour on there. Nobody's gonna really pay attention to advisory speed limits because they're not enforceable. But as the summer where it progresses, we will have additional days where it gets in the high 90s, low triple digits that may require us to apply either sand or chips to those roads. And if we can slow the traffic down, we will minimize damage to the residents' vehicles. And I would like to do it for July and August, if you guys
Or are you thinking 35? Is that right?
I think 45 would be fine.
45?
45. I'm open for suggestions if you, but you have to balance, the time it takes to travel with the rest. And I think at 45 miles an hour, you're not going to have. At 45 miles an hour, you will not have people going 65. And
I'm going 55.
Can you put one of those things out that when Joe flies by, it says, you're going 80 mile an hour, slow it to 45?
I can see if it's available.
Because I think
LTAP folks
that's just kind of a
have
thing. Every time I see it, I think I brushed it down.
Yeah, Iowa State LTAP has one they will loan out to the counties, but it's in high demand. I think it's probably already spoken for the summer.
Oh, we could put Andy out there.
Well, we could put a gun out there.
And if you're going too fast, he waves a checkered flag. And if he wants you to slow down, he waves a yellow flag. Does that work, Andy?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Yeah, I would prefer 35 miles an hour, but I think the public backlash would be. 40?
I'm not, I mean, whatever you set, they're gonna drive 10 over.
No, they're gonna drive faster.
Yeah.
It's going to be up to me to ask the sheriff's department to go out there and enforce it. Yeah, I want to be realistic. I think at 45 miles an hour.
And all the revenue.
Which is what we did on 146.
Correct.
With the heavy truck traffic that we're throwing those chips and we haven't had any complaints since we dropped the speed limit. So ever since actually we posted a speed limit on 146 because it was previously a gravel road, the default state speed limit is 55. So we posted the speed limit on that route and we have had no complaints about windshield chips. So that's what I'm basing that on. We haven't had an issue at that speed, and those are the same size stones, but they're also sand, so they're heavier and more likely to cause damage than the limestone chips we're using on these other routes. That is my logic for 45 miles an hour chip seal routes. But I know we will have to be out there to chip them. They went through this weekend with the high 90s, and we did not have to do anything with those. There were a couple areas that looked like they bled a little bit. Jess went out and monitored them all weekend. I have to give him kudos for being diligent on that.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? We have a young lady online that she's got another meeting she's got to go to.
Sure.
And where did I put that in there somewhere? Discuss and consider funding for detox services. Michelle?
Hi, thank you so much. I'm sorry
Patient.
that I do have another meeting at 11, so I appreciate your time. I did send a letter letting you know that there has been some changes just here at the state with as we're moving to from the Health and Human Services to the Accountable Service Organizations. Just a little bit about Community and Family Resources for those of you who don't know us. We are a not-for-profit agency that started in 1968. We provide services throughout the state with our detox and residential services for people suffering from substance use disorders. We also offer outpatient services, but not over there in Jefferson County. I believe New Opportunities is over there. But our goal is to be able to provide services for everyone, regardless of their ability to pay. Last year, we only had one person from Jefferson County that came to services who did not have an ability to pay. All the rest that came either had Medicaid or private insurance. And what we're doing is reaching out to the counties to see if they would be able to consider helping us to have some cost for preparedness money, since our programs are 24 hours a day. Oftentimes, just like I listen to the ambulance, so your ambulance is 24 hours a day, whether someone's in it or not. And that request that we're making for this upcoming year would be for $1,350. Those dollars that we thought maybe you could consider is looking at your opioid settlement dollars, specifically under the area of treating substance use disorder, with supporting evidence-based withdrawal management services for people with opioid use disorders and any other co-occurring mental health condition. This is a new ask. We did not ever have a contract with Jefferson County before. And again, we are just looking to see if that would be something that the county would be interested in helping to support.
Susie, that's opioid fund.
Yeah, although we do have the money, we've not talked about this at the opioid committee meeting. I guess initially I'm thinking we don't know what's going to happen with the state government and medical, so I think it'd be worth a shot to try this for a year.
Yeah.
And make and then decide at that year if it's been beneficial.
So do you want to meet with the committee, or do you just want, as Elizabeth has told us before, we don't have much authority, but we have authority.
Yeah.
Oh, she's in the committee.
Huh?
She's on the committee.
Yes, she is. She's integral to the committee.
Let's not overstate it, but it is in your purview to decide how you want to utilize those funds. There have been members on the committee who asked, as a courtesy to kind of just give them a heads up. I don't know if that's something you want to bring to their attention beforehand. I just know that was something.
Yeah, in my mind, the opioid situation is critical and apparent. The next time we have a meeting, what is it, 8th of July? It'd be nice to take care of this so we can start our year July 1st.
Well, here's what I will say, which probably doesn't amount to much, but this, and when I look at this, when we talk about the opioid crisis and so on and so forth, if I'm gonna get in major trouble with this.
It's okay, you're already there.
I know, but please don't misunderstand. I'm okay with t-shirts. Yeah, I like t-shirts. But this has
real
a direct impact.
Correct.
That's what I think is the value of being able to disperse those funds, is where you're going to, and I'm not saying, I'm just saying, I think this is a valuable tool as far as being able to use those funds if you think that that's.
We're talking $1,350.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
That is our request for this upcoming year. We may see that there are more people that come in that need services that are unfunded. And I think giving it this first year, we can always come back and discuss it again, or if at 6 months we're finding more people that are coming in that are unfunded, I certainly can come back to the supervisors. But that was just our data from last year. So,
Well, Michelle, I would ask, if the board decides to do this, as I said to Mr. Ferguson,
yeah,
that you would submit us an invoice.
yes.
Okay, so
I make the motion, we allow 1 year for a test, maybe follow up if it's needed, because we'll have a better idea of what is needed. Based on, it's just all up in the air with the state. I'd like to give her the $1,350 for this year, starting July 1st. For 1 year, from the opioid money.
we have a second?
I'll second that. You need to go to the committee to finalize it, or
No, I think we'll go to no, we don't have to go to the committee to find out.
you just tell them you did it?
And I would maybe ask that Michelle come to one of our meetings and just visit about it.
Sure. Just let me know when your meetings are and I'll fit it into my schedule.
July 8th, 9 a.m. Right here. We'll be able to zoom in at that time.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
The same bat time, same bat channel.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. Now, well, you might be old enough to remember same bat time, same bat channel.
Hey,
What?
be nice.
I just,
You can't help
You
it.
watch too much TV.
I know.
I grew up watching that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was watching reruns.
Mine were reruns.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? You got that all down, did you?
Sure do,
Same bat time, same bat channel.
sure didn't.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Abby,
same
I'd like to
sign.
go on record saying you're very smart.
If you noticed on there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Her email address is on there if you want to send her. Well, you have the Zoom, so July, if you want to make note, July 8th at 9 a.m.
Is it the same Zoom link as
Same
the
Zoom
county
link.
supervisor?
Yes.
okay.
Okay,
Sounds good.
perfect.
All right, I'll
Thank
see
you.
you then.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Michelle.
much. I appreciate it.
Okay, Dwayne, you're back. So we have, he wants to 45?
I'm comfortable with 45. I think that-
45,
I think
okay.
that's a decent balance.
Okay, 45 miles an hour for Pleasant Plain Road, Dowds Road, and 110th. Until,
Hey, the Lockridge is already at 45
Yeah.
Okay.
and it's 25 in 10. So, okay, I don't think that's a concern.
until September 1?
Yeah.
Till September 1st.
Did you put that in the form of a motion?
No, but I will.
Okay, let's do that.
To set the speed limit on Pleasant Plain Road, Dowds Road, and 110th Street between Pleasant Plain and Highway 1.
Between 1/10 between Pleasant Plain and Highway 1, Pleasant Plain Road from the city limits of Fairfield to 167th, and Dowds Road from the Van Buren County line to the North City limit of Libertyville.
Second that.
Till September 1.
Well, it'd actually be to the south city limit of Libertyville, because once you're in Libertyville, the city's speed limit.
Their directions are all screwed up. Libertyville, I never know whether they're, never mind.
So
Because I never know
September,
whether they're coming or going.
September 1st of this year?
Huh?
September 1st of this year?
Yeah, of this year, of 2025. We do have a motion in a second, right?
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
hot diggity dog, we're just moving right along here. Discuss and consider appointing Leah Craft to Progressive Housing for, what? Oh, my bad. Okay, let's back up a little bit and resolution to appoint Darcy Upstead as deputy, is her deputy, just HR County Deputy, Jefferson County Auditor's Office, effective July 1st, 2025.
Is that a motion?
Sure.
I second that.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Do I need?
No.
Okay. Now, discuss and consider appointing Leah Kraft to the Progressive Housing Corp Board.
So moved.
Susie didn't sign.
I will second that motion. I do believe that she will be an asset. I am saddened by having to make the appointment as the result of passing Becky Smith.
You haven't voted on it yet?
I have a new. Oh, I thought this was the other one. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That was official. Okay.
My gosh, I mean.
Discuss and consider subdivision ordinance.
You want it?
So, since putting this on the agenda, I attended the Iowa, tax of interest training. So as of July 1st, there's a new state law that's coming into effect that requires counties to allow an accessory dwelling unit on a piece of property. So I know we were going to be discussing the subdivision ordinance and how to define dwellings, limiting number of dwellings, et cetera, for sanitation purposes. So we're gonna have to, this is all to say that we need a work session to discuss it because we're gonna have to amend it to allow for an ADU.
So can I ask a question? And every time I ask a question, I put you in.
Yes, you can ask a question. Absolutely. I don't know if I'll be able to answer it, but I'll do my best.
What the hell is an accessory dwelling unit?
So it's defined differently, like it can be a separate unit, it can be something that is incorporated into the main home, with its own separate staircase, for example. So I'm gonna have to look at the law. Like I said, I just discovered this last week when I was getting my training on the upcoming laws that are coming into effect on July 1st. This is basically, from my understanding, having to do with the AARP's pressure, I guess, on Iowa legislators to kind of get this in place. And it makes sense. I know that there have been a lot of people who are interested in it. I think that there are some concerns that I've had just related to emergency services provision and, addresses, but I'm hoping that the law addresses that. I haven't looked at it yet.
Well, I do too, because you say allows for an accessory dwelling unit. I don't with what you're saying that,
No, it's me. I did it.
well, but does that mean that they allow for 15 accessory dwelling units?
It's just one, to my knowledge, right now, but it's still something that we should be keeping in
Sure.
mind when we revisit our subdivision ordinance, which is what we're gonna be doing anyway, so.
So
It's-
then should we change the minimum parcel size based on the need for? I mean, you can put 4 units up to one sand filter system, but they each have to have their own tank. I believe it's 1,250 gallons, but I don't quote me on it. My point is that you have to allow for enough area to be able to do it. Anyway, we'll have that discussion, is what you're telling me.
I really look forward to discussing that further at our work
I think we
session.
need to bring Jerry in on this too.
Yes.
Sanitary.
Yes, that would be great. Obviously, his input would be invaluable, so I don't know when you'd like to schedule that, but,
Well, I don't know either, because I don't know what his schedule is,
Yeah.
but
if you want to reach out to him,
yeah,
and then we can all coordinate.
and then Abby's not gonna
Obviously,
be
not all of
available
us on the same email, but.
From the 30 that took in.
Just the 30th and July 1.
Certain games.
Okay.
So I'd like to see it done this week.
Okay.
If it fits.
I have Thursday, I have meetings, a doctor's appointment. Wednesday, but I can do after the doctor's
I
appointment.
have availability on Wednesday or Friday, so if you want to just keep that in mind, I'm fairly flexible, so.
If we're gonna do it
We should
Wednesday,
probably,
should we decide now so we can get it on the agenda?
do you want to check in with Jerry
Yeah,
or?
I do, but we could. I've got Friday available, or Joe,
Yep, Friday's available.
Okay, so I'll just ask him if he can be here on.
Friday morning would be best.
Okay, like what time would you like?
At any time in the morning, it's okay.
That's good. I'm tied up most afternoons this week
So-
because the fair's starting.
9 a.m.
Sure.
Perfect.
Or 7.
9 a.m.
You be here at 7.
Okay,
Preparing.
so, I was gonna say,
9 a.m.
Subdivision. Work session. 9 a.m. And when we get down to here, I'll give Jerry a call.
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hot diggity dog, guess what? We're gonna talk to. Do we want to go through the committee reports and public comments and then talk today?
Doesn't matter.
Ask him.
Sooner or later? Sooner, okay. Well, then come on down.
Don't know why.
Oh, well, it's,
It's either one of two things, somebody has a complaint or you wanna
Oh.
offer me more money because I've been doing such a wonderful
well,
job.
unfortunately, it's not more money and it's not a complaint.
Oh, Lordy.
So, I mean, fortunately, it's not a complaint. Unfortunately, it's not more money until July 1.
I don't seem to win either way, do I?
Oh, well, yes. No, what we wanted to discuss with you was you've got so much on your plate now. We were wondering whether or not it made sense for you, for us, to look at cleaning services for the courthouse, say a couple of hours in the late afternoon or something of that nature. 5 days a week or 3 days a week or whatever. Say like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, or that one, like Top Notch or somebody like that to come in.
I don't know, we're asking somebody to come into my house and clean it.
Well,
And,
that's kind of true. That's why we wanted to talk to you.
let me tell you what I do, okay?
Okay.
Just so we all understand. I talked to Joe a little bit about this morning when he informed me that I was on the agenda. Generally, what I do twice a year is to go through the entire building, top to bottom. I do absolutely every contact surface with the exception of the walls. Where there might be dirt, or bat poop, or, I pull all the furniture out, I vacuum under everything, I take the windows apart, I clean the windows, I do all the shades, I do the fans, everything. And what that does is that gives me a base where we kind of maintain this standard throughout the building.
Right.
And that also allows me to come in the morning and do a 2-hour clean to bring everything up to speed on the daily. That's not a problem.
Okay.
So unless somebody has a complaint, I just assume leave it the way it is. Because that also gives me the opportunity to walk the building and see where problems are. And, I'd like to keep it that way. We dropped the convention center this year because I requested to have more time to work on what I'm calling special projects. And to me, a special project is a project that isn't going to be done. It's like that vault or the storage area that was created under the stairs for the voting stuff, or the old file room down there, redoing the boiler room. If I'm not getting a lot of mechanical stuff, I don't have any problem staying on top of the workload. So I just assumed somebody didn't come in.
Okay.
I do appreciate you thinking about it.
See, all this time I thought it was Abby coming in here and moving all the chairs.
It might be.
All I'm trying to do is I want to make sure that this building doesn't require any additional additional attention before I leave here. And I think I can accomplish that. And like I said, this is my house. I don't want anybody else's.
I appreciate that.
Somebody evidently thought they might get, maybe take some workload off of your son. That might be the reason for this.
That's it. I'm only 71.
Well, you're a young buck yet.
In this room, I might be.
Well, close, but no cigar. Susie's 83. No, I'm just.
I like to tell people I'm gonna be 25 next week,
Yeah,
but I got a lot
yeah,
of miles
You know,
on me.
Dave, you can't add very well, so please consider that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has anybody complained about something not getting done?
It's just that it seems like, well, it is, especially since we've been talking to you, that it's been, I mean, you got a lot on your plate. At least from my perspective.
Yeah. At times. At times. But it is what it is, don't have to worry about it. You know, I always wanted to get a T-shirt that says professional workers supervision not required.
There you go.
Well, and so far that's been the case for the last 8 years. And I appreciate you guys not, you know, asking me if I can do something. I've been volunteered for a few things, but like the ceiling panels here that I got volunteered for, let's see, that was 4 weeks after my back surgery.
Oh, geez.
Well, at the bright side, you were always told you go up in the world.
Yeah. You know, that install took an hour and a half on the part of the contractor, and that's because I put 16 hours into prepping the ceiling so that they could go in an hour and a half.
Well, I appreciate all the hard work you put in up there, and I hate to tell you this, but they're in upside down.
You know, I had to come up with a way to balance every one of those so that they all lay flat up there. And because the wires were tied in different points on every single panel, they were so fully manufactured. So I got some big flat washers. And I put a flat washer up on top, and I could move it back and forth across the panel, which was level up. Yeah.
And I'll tell you something else, just so you know. That pull rope for that fan doesn't work.
How would you know? You couldn't reach it, Lee.
No, this one right here.
Oh, this.
That is
yeah.
not for the fan.
I was looking.
Oh, dear. I'm sorry, Dave.
No, the only time it gets to be a bit much sometimes is when the contractors that we invite in here, and a lot of this is back on me, because a lot of times when we do a project, it involves more than just the contractor, okay? Because there's cleanup associated with it, there's tear apart, just put things back together. And so I usually pick that stuff up so that we don't have to bring another contractor in. So sometimes depending on the project, that has a way of holding up a little bit, but the normal project, not really.
Anything else?
We appreciate everything you do.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear them getting raised. Are we done?
July 1st.
You're getting ready to get life.
July 1st.
Okay.
All right. Committee reports.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, perfect. Let's do it.
So, had extension meeting last Tuesday night, and most of that was all about getting ready for the fair, which, by the way, the fair starts Wednesday. If you have any booth out there in the McClure building, you need to be there by 5 o'clock. The fair parade is tonight, and I know you two probably want to ride in a wagon. I think that's a good idea, actually.
What night are the pork producers there?
I don't know.
Oh. Thursday, I think.
Well, I think it's Friday because I think they have it coincide with the swine show. I think the
Oh,
swine is
you're right.
Friday and then cattle is Friday.
Yeah.
Or Saturday, and then
Okay.
the
Yeah,
cattlemen do the Saturday night, you know.
Okay.
yeah. At 5 o'clock on last Tuesday, I had a Madison barn meeting. Seems like it's chosen to rain every time we've had a meeting recently while we're there.
So we still have chickens?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
At any rate, they are,
Did they eat them?
pardon,
Did they eat them?
Lee? I'll ask the next time I go, okay?
Oh.
There are still chickens.
Huh?
There are still chickens.
There's still chickens?
I was just helping with a field trip the other day. Yes, there are
Oh,
chickens.
okay. So they didn't eat them?
Yeah, and the fish
Okay.
are getting big.
Okay, let me move on.
Okay.
Um, inside the one building, the big Centennial building, there, Leon and Tony are working on installing the oak boards up a little further. They're working on things like having trash cans that a business can put a logo on,
Oh,
which is kind of a cool idea. They've just got a lot going on. And if you guys want to volunteer to help out there, they really need your help. We've got a lot going on. Other than that, let me see. We had a Jackson Point meeting on Wednesday and it's interesting. I think we aren't leaving any stone unturned there.
it's just,
And there's a lot of stones.
yeah.
Yeah. On what day was it? Semco didn't have a meeting, but I also had a meeting at a workforce meeting. And the gist of it is the chair, Jason Rodewall from Grinnell, we aren't getting that much money next year. I think 700 some thousand. We've, of course, our chair wants us to move toward incorporating with another region. I'm not sure which region he's thinking about, but I am leaning toward, I think right now we have a need for a financial person because anything Pathfinders is going away. And
Pathfinders as well?
no,
Oh.
Pathfinders help with this.
Oh, okay.
My opinion is, if we don't know what's happening with the government, the federal funding, why do we want to change to another region? If we just did away with the executive director who makes 160,000 and whatever the two people underneath her are making, we might be able to survive just for a year. I want to give it another year. Because in a year, if we don't have anything, we don't have anything. But right now we have 700 some thousand to run a program, which we have the most efficient program. It's what I used to do.
Right.
And we're helping more people than most of the regions in the state. It looks like most of the emphasis is going what I call the I-80 corridor. If you're within the I-80 corridor, you're going to get more attention. So I don't really know how that's going to happen. That was an emergency meeting last week, and we're going to have another one probably soon, but I don't know. The way it used to be, Indian Hills charged 10% admin, indirect cost. And the only thing we would have, if Indian Hills would go back to doing the finances at that 10% cost, then all we would need would be one-stop shop, which we've got right there. So I don't know. And there's the turmoil all about Job Corps closing and trying to find things to help those young folks continue what they're doing.
There's so many things right now up in the air.
Absolutely. Anyway, I think that's it.
Joe?
You look like you're thinking.
I'm always thinking.
Oh.
That's one of us.
Oh, last Monday at noon,
Read my mind.
they had a meeting at City Hall talking about the Walton Lake out there, and I attended that. And I'm just basically explaining some of the things they're gonna do. Had a meeting with Chauncey at Jackson Point over at his office. Oh. Attended a lot of softball games that don't have anything to do with the county. And on Sunday afternoon, I went to the convention center. Dick DeAngelis had that movie when Maharishi came to Fairfield. There was a lot of people that made comments in there and stuff. It was kind of interesting to listen. And I mean, I was fresh out of high school when they come to town. And there was a lot of things said that, yeah, I knew about.
They had high school then?
Back in 1910.
When you were fresh out, yeah.
You do have proof, right?
It's not signed, but who knows?
I mean, yeah, it was uphill both ways.
Yeah, that's all I've got it.
Well, I had an early childhood meeting that I didn't attend. Because I was dealing with the truck tire and all that stuff. And yes, Jackson Point Progressive Housing Corp, we met. Sean, who's no longer here, but Sean Morrissey and myself and supervisors were there as support. Leah Kraft was there, and we talked at length about our ongoing circumstances out there and, or not out there, but over there. Trying to make this, it's a difficult situation, as you guys are well aware of, and with the financial situation with Iowa Finance Authority and wanting to make sure that those folks continue to have a place to live while at the same time not getting the county involved in it in a financial way, because the county, it is not a county. Probably a lot of folks don't understand this, but it is not a county-owned or county-run facility. It is operated by the Jackson Point Progressive Housing Corp. And it used to be what was called the Jackson Point Limited Partnership. And that had to do with the tax credits, the bank that was involved in that to collect the tax credits. We have a management company oversees it, and as some are aware of now, since we had the discussion earlier this morning about the property tax, it paid property tax, and so it is not a county-owned or county-run facility. Anyway, that's all I had. Public comments?
No.
Hearing none.
Just a minute. I want to add that I've been over these roads that we redone.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been over twice last week. I've been over them. I was over them between Saturday and Sunday. I drove them all again. And it just takes time to get stuff done. I don't know why people are so upset. It bothers me.
Well, I can't honestly answer that because I didn't.
Nobody can. I'm sorry,
But my understanding is we did have some folks in here that probably maybe went down the road too fast.
Well,
I don't know.
the rain when we were doing Pleasant Plain Road was very inopportune, to say the least. That, it was kind of a snowball effect. It's the highest traffic route that was on our program this year. And the rain right after they completed putting the top application on allowed that wet sand to get caught in tires. And there's a lot of people that had an honest complaint. I mean, they could have driven slow and still ended up with some of that sand, because the sand would get caught in the wet sand would get caught in the treads of their tires. And you don't have to go very fast for it to make a heck of a mess. We've been doing car washes. A lot of them have just minor oil spray, but there were some of them that were a holy mess. And so I understand, and we're doing what we can to make it right for the folks. So, all I can do is apologize again. We've modified what we're going to do. And in the future, when we do a program, we're going to skip that top layer to try and eliminate the chips, we will just ask you guys to lower the speed limit in advance on those routes. So that we can minimize that. And then, there's some other things that we may try, using smaller aggregate for that top. Two course chip seal using smaller chips. On this one, we did 1/2-inch chips on two layers of 1/2-inch chips on 1/10 and 218. We only did 1 layer of chips on Pleasant Plain Road and Dowds Road, but then we put on Pleasant Plain Road, we put the sand over the top, and we're not going to try that again. It worked out all right on 1/10 because it was dry. We had dry sand, but the rain between the two projects and then the rain shortly after we applied it shot us in the foot. We look back at our mistakes and change what we do going forward.
We could just simply close the roads down for 2 or 3 days too, to do it, if that's what it takes. I realize it's a bark in the wind, but.
It's not, it's not what a lot of people want to see on the county roads. People don't like chip seal because it makes it look like a rural road, but. In 2018, you guys bonded $6 million. And at that time, $6 million got a overlay on 15, 16 miles of road. That same $6 million would get you about, it might get you 6 miles of road this year with that same procedure. And our budget hasn't gone up.
Yeah, we need to add to that we used $2 million in federal money. Along with that $6 million.
Yeah, and you'll be paying that off until I retire. Assuming you guys keep me around till I'm 71, you will have the bond paid off in 2033, is that correct, Ed?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
So that's what I, so, and then at that time, when much like Dave wants to leave this building in good condition when he retires, I want the road system to be in good condition when I hang up my hat. I want to have a plan going forward.
So is your goal to get that 6 million paid off or to reach 71?
Well, you guys are paying off the 6 million. My goal is to reach 71.
Okay.
I can't remember if that was 10 or 15 years. 15. I know we got a real low interest rate on it.
I think it was 15, I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. There was something I was going to suggest. I do appreciate the fact that, we acknowledge that we had an issue, but we also are going to recognize, change the methodology. I mean, I think those are important, important things to do. I know what it was. One of the suggestions during the public hearing while you were out discussing with the other gentleman, is Velvet farm to market?
No.
Would it benefit us regarding that to make it farm to market?
No, because it's a railroad bridge. And at some point, we have bridges, we have a similar bridge over at Fur Avenue that has the same issue. It's the same type of bridge, and that one's only a 3-ton limit.
Right.
And both of those have the same general issue, is that the route, if they're not there, is quite inconvenient.
Right.
And Fur, your next railroad crossing is either Hemlock or Cedar.
Well,
So you guys 4 or 5 mile detours either direction on that, and none of them are.
Yeah, I think the question was if it became a farm to market road, whether or not that had, or the state or somebody, we'd have more influence with the railroad regarding that bridge because it was a farm to market.
You would have more influence with the railroad, but unfortunately, I'm kind of sorry that Jacob from the BNSF didn't zoom in today, because I was hoping he would be available to answer some questions about, so if we keep the bridge open, at some point, we're gonna have to close it because it won't pass the weight restriction. And then it'll have to work into their program on when they can repair it. And, or replace it, and. The state laws look really good on paper, but the railroads are under the federal.
Right.
Commerce Commission, so the state laws don't apply to them. So. We have to.
And they know it. too.
They know, but they, the BNSF has stepped up, and all the railroads have stepped up and taken more responsibility for local entities. When I was in the asphalt business, the old roadmaster of the Chicago Northwestern just tell people we were here first, so the heck with it. We let you cross our route, we don't have to. And, that was 30 years ago, and they have a more community friendly posture now. So they're willing to work with you, but they're a private company and or a public company, and they need to show a profit to their shareholders, so.
Well, I know they put up a lot of barriers here in town, at the behest of the railroad. My other question is, we can't necessarily embargo, obviously, the railroad, but can we set a speed limit? I mean, they talked about setting a speed limit years ago coming through town at 25 miles an hour. I don't know whether that still exists or not.
I don't think we, in the rural sections, have that option. I know the railroad would like to eliminate as many at-grade crossings as they can, because that's their biggest liability. The bridges, the overpasses and underpasses are an expense, but they're not really a liability, because people don't generally run into railroad trains when they're crossing an overpass or an underpass. But
Yeah, I know when we talked about filling that underpass up on Nutmeg, boy. They really did take.
well, and they're gonna have to spend a lot of money there, you've got, at some point, they're gonna have to replace the underpass on Nutmeg, the underpass on Vetch. And then they've got the other two, the fir and the velvet leaf. So, they've got expenses coming down their pipeline. They're going to have to budget, or they probably already do have it in their budget.
I was gonna say, you would think though, in all seriousness, that they would do it sooner than later, because later's gonna cost more money than sooner. Just the natural way of things, but anyway.
I'll let Jacob know that, we chose to not close the bridge, and that,
And he's more than welcome to come talk to us.
Unless they give us $1 million, I kind of like Steve's suggestion.
Well, he said 10 million.
Okay,
10 million.
we'll go with that.
yeah.
But I think they'd still fight it. I know I would. If it was in my neighborhood.
Yeah, I think that I only take a car over that. I will not take a truck and trailer over that.
Question. I know it's a railroad brick, but there were several comments made about they don't do anything and it gets ice on it and stuff. Can we sand that without getting in trouble?
I'm sure we could, we don't sand any of our rural bridges.
Yeah,
I suppose, that one's got an arch though, so it's.
yeah. Just saying, just
Yeah.
food for thought.
That's more than 6 tons going over.
Yeah, we can't, because I don't have a vehicle.
Susie will carry the bucket and throw it out by hand. As long as you.
If you give me your address.
What am I
can
throwing
drop-
out?
I can drop a bucket off to your place. You've got a 4-wheel drive, you can get out there.
Or one of those little push cart things.
Yeah. No, you can't do that, because that would You don't wanna be walking across that thing if there's a vehicle.
No, I was talking like a, you know, four-wheeler that has little things on the back.
Spreader.
Yeah, yeah. We did,
Mine weigh more than 6 tons, so I'm safe.
we did a crash helmet.
Yeah, is the county going to add that to our
underneath.
equipment
In
budget?
the lake.
Yeah. She's probably got a four-wheeler on there. So I would allow a motion to allow claims and approved reports.
Any amount of,
Oh,
You've got it in front of you.
by the way,
$377,000, $342.73. 377, 343, 73.
so that means when those are paid and people cash those checks, we're done with fiscal year, blah, blah, blah. Right?
Yeah, does somebody want to be here? Who shall remain nameless?
It was the ICF.
It's a recurring thing.
It is, yeah,
I bought ice cream last Friday, she wasn't here either.
I know. We had that conversation.
Well, you had to come in the
She's
building.
asked my permission. So we have, before we get too far in the weeds, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Or no,
Second.
I would entertain a motion.
To adjourn.
No, but the claims and report.
Oh, I thought you made that motion.
No, I said I would entertain a motion.
Oh, so moved.
Second.
Okay.
I thought we'd already done it.
Yeah,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
you need a training to.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Rail that, so.
I'll second it.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Abby's pen's running out of ink.